until you retire. In fact, they have no money for you. The day you retire, they look for it.
This country is punishing many young people. These young people are more susceptible to be deceived, to be taken advantage of, and they're more susceptible to be bought off.
Let us also talk about where we want our country to go. You know, we are a population of very young people.
We're in a state of capture. The judiciary is under duress. Parliament is in the pocket of the executive. You don't sit and wait for the regime to topple itself. It will never do so.
By the way, let me tell you, these guys are so persuasive. I'm telling you, they can persuade you to sell your grandmother. I'm telling you, they can sell sand in the desert.
City, has anybody on this program said to you as a guest, saying, "Oh, shut up, we don't want to be told what to do"? Has you ever that kind of? Has anybody been
I will not listen.
A bit of advice? Because you're working on the premise that we should all pay heed to these proverbs. It's a very suspect notion.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. SpiceFM, Nyeri.
Okay, Monday morning. Good morning. All Mombasa Road users, understand, as you're inbound to the city this morning, the main highway has been closed between the Weybridge and the SGR. So you're going to have to use what is known as the Old Mombasa Road heading out into the city. And we can already see that it's causing some trouble this morning and causing some major traffic along Mombasa Road as you're heading into the city. So this one we're going to have to brace for today. It's a Monday and everybody's already out and about. We're seeing some traffic on Jogo Road this morning, heading out into the city as well as you go towards the stadium roundabout and then out towards Landys Road. Everywhere else hasn't seemed to have woken up just yet, but wait and see what happens this morning. Let's try and keep it moving in the best way possible. Talk to us as we get through the morning on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, how are you doing? It's 6 minutes after 6. A very good morning to you. Today is the 16th day of August, 2021. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. Eric Latif and Nduoko C.T. Muga is away today. He is dealing with one or two issues here and there, building the nation.
One or two here or there.
Yes.
Okay.
Mawili matatu. How are you doing?
I am assuming you're referring to me.
Okay.
I'm fine. I'm fine now.
You're fine?
Yes.
You know, I forgot to get the other pen.
So now this one is dead.
Yeah.
You need a pen?
Yeah.
I can maybe sort you out.
Okay, please do.
Don't worry, I gotcha.
Very
How are you?
good. I'm very well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm happy to be here.
Good.
Yes. Had a good weekend.
Fantastic.
And you?
I rested. Did I? I don't remember. Flew by so quickly. I just remember Sunday being very cold. Or was it Saturday afternoon?
Sunday was yesterday.
Yeah, Saturday. It was Saturday.
Saturday was very cold.
Yeah, for some time there. But here we are.
Yeah, it's a new day. It's a new week.
It's the week. Friday the 20th is the day. We will hear whether the BBI ruling will be overturned or whether it will be held. It's that day.
Eh?
Yes, this is the week
This is the week of BBI.
mighty speculation. and waiting.
This
with
is the
bated breath.
BBI week. Okay.
So we wait and see what happens there.
I'm sure even these guys had moved on.
You think they're not
Everybody in
thinking
this
about the
BBI
20th of
case,
August?
yeah. Move on. Whatever happens, happens.
Perhaps.
I have that feeling.
Let's see.
Yeah, and then there's a lot that's happened over the weekend as well. So there was a burial of the Kenjokamo brothers on Friday, and there were protests over what's happened there. Were protests of a provision of security, protests of missing people, missing persons, and questions whether this is extrajudicial or not. All those things. We'll have that conversation today, right?
Yep.
The Independent Medical Legal Unit will be with us in the studio, looking at what is it that's happening? Is this a failure of police reforms, or is it just a continuation of police reforms? Are we seeing police reforms in action? And maybe these are just bad seeds here and there, and what action is being taken on that. So we'll have that conversation. We'll also be asking ourselves, so what's been happening, with the Kitengela brothers and their friends who are said to have been attacked by neighbors and killed? What exactly happened, and how are those investigations taking place? We'll be discussing that as well, plus very many other stories. The world has changed. In Afghanistan, the world has changed.
Yes.
In Zambia, the world has changed as well. A new president is taking over.
The world continues to change.
Yeah?
A lot is happening, and many questions are being asked, especially with the Afghanistan issue.
Yeah.
And what happened in Afghanistan over the 20 years that the Taliban basically said, okay, here, have the country, and we're going to take it back after 20 years with whatever it is that you would have done. And then here we are. Didn't think that day would come, but it has happened. And what does it mean for Afghanistan moving forward?
Yeah. What does it portend for Afghanistan? But also, what does it say about America and all those years that they took there?
Taking care of Afghanistan.
Yeah. If it took such a short time for the Taliban to just steamroll into Kabul, and even finding the president taking off, America itself offering so many visas to Afghanis just because, come on, it speaks volume. But let's start with COVID and the numbers in the country and the world.
Cases recorded for the 14th of August, 1,225. New COVID-19 cases. Positivity rate in the country, positivity rate from this particular sample size stands at 13.8. And this was a sample size of 8,877. So the ministry confirmed this. New cases were across the country, spread out. And again, the numbers don't look really pretty. Things that are, moving closer and closer to home in terms of, what will happen if these cases continue to spread, and in terms of the resources that are available at the moment, right? So yeah, we're still looking at in the thousands, 1,000 plus every day of COVID-19 cases. Let's look at what's happening around the world as well. 207,980,418. We are now seeing more and more cases arising from the Delta variant in the United States. Now, when things had gone down about 2 months ago, and the World Health Organization, again, talked about the fact that there was a steady decline of COVID-19 cases around the world, we saw a lull, of course, in the reporting of numbers. Now we are seeing that these numbers are rising. We're looking at high cases in the United States, for example, more and more people being infected. And just conversations with people over the last couple of days, we do see that people who are getting infected with COVID are people who have and have not gotten the vaccine. However, those who are being infected with COVID-19 who have not had the vaccine are getting more serious symptoms. All right. Those in the US who have gotten the first vaccine are having more cases than those who have had both vaccines. But it is possible to get COVID-19 even after you have been vaccinated, which is why now people are there's insistence on people wearing masks and still maintaining social distance and such, because it's still happening and it's still an issue.
It's still a big one, eh?
Yes.
There's some report that I've seen which is talking about the new Lambda variant. All right. This one is some study that has not yet been peer reviewed, but it's also being discussed by experts who are saying that they have noticed the Lambda variant has some elements which may be resistant to the vaccine. Now, the Lambda variant was first discovered in Peru, and it's still rapidly going around the world. It's still not yet classified as dangerous as the Delta, but it's still being studied. But now, if indeed it is actually true that the Lambda variant could be offering resistance to vaccine,
that's a big deal, my friend. I mean, you laugh because there's no other reaction to have right now, because if it's something coming out that is resistant to the vaccine that everybody has been developing over the last 18 months, then you're basically saying, okay, then we have to go back to the drawing board and say what needs to be done. Because if it's spreading, no resistance,
yes,
and you have,
then what? Everybody goes back to the drawing board.
Yeah, because what are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
It's a big issue. It's a very big one. And then also, of course, the developing world is now talking about booster shots, which means that the hope that we had of them donating their extra vaccines to us,
they're going to keep them. They need them.
Yeah. It's 6:15. Time for us to take a quick break. We are live streaming the show on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Wherever you are, say hello. Let's say hello back at you after we take a look at the weather and look at the day's proverb. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
They are stealing every opportunity that you should have. They are stealing your health facilities. They are stealing all the progress that you planned for your child. They are stealing all the benefits that university students should have. Your livelihood is slowly being taken away from you, which means your life is also being slowly taken away from you as you watch.
Cut through the noise and stay in the know by texting the word TSR to 22840 to receive these and more highlights and insights from the Situation Room directly to your mobile phone. Don't miss out on the latest from Kenya's biggest conversation. SMS TSR to 22840.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to
It's a
Spice
cloudy morning in Nairobi today. We will see highs of 20 and lows of 14, and there's a chance of rain through this morning. Cloudy conditions at 13 in Nyeri, highs of 19. We'll see highs of 23 and lows of 12 in Nakuru. It's cloudy currently at 13. Clear conditions at 12 in Eldoret, highs of 23 and lows of 11. We'll see lows of 17 in Kisumu. That is clear this morning at 18, going to highs of 27. 27 will be the high in Kakamega. It's 15 currently and clear. At 23 and light rain in Mombasa with highs of 28 and lows of 22. We'll see highs of 28 in Malindi as well. Light rain at 24. It's clear at 17 in Kampala. Highs of 26. 29 will be the high in Dar es Salaam. It's raining at 22. 7 degrees and clear in Johannesburg. It go to highs of 19. It's raining also in Lagos at 25. Highs of 29 and lows of 24. 31 will be the high recorded in Kinshasa, where rain showers through most of the morning at 25. It's also 25 in Beijing, looking out east, and sunny. Highs of 28 and lows of 22. 13 will be the low in a cloudy Paris at 18. And it's mostly cloudy in London at 16, coming down to lows of 14. Sunday night in New York reads 24 and clear. Coming into Monday, we'll see highs of 28 and lows of 21.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
All
Nairobi.
right, it is 17 minutes after 6. Very good morning wherever you are. Who's online?
Quite a good morning, and everybody's tuned in today. Phil F.A. Collins is tuned in this morning, and he says, let the government put more efforts in vaccination and open up the country. I can see it's only Africa still under lockdown. Well, and Phil, you are just next to us over there. Okay, Karibu. Letu Joseph is tuning this morning from Namibia, and tuning from Entebbe is Wedera Magidu. Diana Mburu tuned in as well from Kitengela, and Nate Kimtai as well. Alice Dimp is also tuned in this morning, and David Wasubukia is tuned in as well. Beda actually tuned in from Machakos, Abirono, as well as Brian Kiplagat from Homa Bay. Everybody's online today. My goodness, can I get to all of you? Let's try. Oscar also is tuned in from Masinda Muliri University. Said Ali Bidu says, good morning, assalamu alaikum to you too. Enjoy your day. Where is Mwalimu? Well, he's doing 1, 2, 3 things, as Eric said. Raphael Conrad Mwembe is tuned in from Nakuru. Washira Wilfred says, hey, Eric and Ndu, many situations have changed all the way from Afghanistan to you forgetting your pen, Eric.
Yeah.
Gishugu and Situation remain as usual. Well, Karibu. Otieno Odero Jr. is tuning in from the freezing Great Wall of Kino. And Donald Namema is tuning in from Luanda. Well, and Babu Mkoloni is tuned in as well. Jennings Onyango tuned in from Limani in Nakuru. And Kev Santana says, the Nyuki is online. 2021 has proven to be dramatic from Kabul to Luanda. Morning, guys. Back in Kisumu, that's Sir Haran. And Son of the Soil is tuned in as well. Becky Kim has some questions very early this morning. What is the role of the church and other religious groups? Just to bury the dead and provide the pulpit to politicians for political campaigns? Why is there no outrage from the church on these killings?
Okay.
Big questions this morning.
Good question.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us, everybody. We'll get into those conversations this morning.
Yes, that's true. The day's proverb. Having a good discussion is like having riches. It's an African proverb. Having a good discussion is like having riches. Yes.
Much to get from it. Oh, okay.
You grow wealthier.
A good conversation.
A good conversation.
Discussion.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Actually, we can use the word conversation instead. Yeah?
Having a good conversation. As we do here.
Yes.
It's like having riches.
It's like having riches.
Voila.
That is the proverb of the day. Let's look at the headlines. What's happened over the weekend and now what's been covered in the papers today.
Okay. This is weird.
Yeah.
But there's a puzzle of cheap fuel in Nakuru. So today is the 15th of August. 16th of August, right? So we saw the 14th, 15th fuel prices then, change, remain the same kind of thing. But it would appear that in Nakuru, pricing formula, that fuel is actually much cheaper. Anyway, pricing formula is expected to make the commodity more expensive as one travels further away from Mombasa. So now let's look at this particular story and understand what exactly is going on here. Believe it or not, it's cheaper to buy fuel in Nakuru, Naivasha, Gilgil, Nyahururu, Mogotio, and Londiani than in Nairobi. It's yet another puzzle that baffles many motorists, given that it goes against the stated principles of the fuel pricing formula. The formula is expected to make fuel more expensive as one travels further away from Mombasa, as it factors in the cost of transportation. So, all towns on the west of Nairobi are expected to be more expensive. But consumers continue to wonder why it would be cheaper to buy fuel in Nakuru than it is in Nairobi, despite being transported for another 170 kilometers from the capital. In Nairobi, consumers will buy petrol at 127 shillings per litre, diesel at 107, while kerosene retails at 97. Nakuru motorists, the happiest west of Nairobi, given that a litre of petrol for another month will cost 126 shillings, while kerosene will cost 97. In keeping with the formula, Mombasa consumers will remain the happiest nationally, with the super petrol retailing at 124, obviously, because it doesn't have to travel further to get to them. diesel at 105, and kerosene at 95. Storage and distribution, which includes the transport element, takes 3 shillings per litre of super petrol, 2.9 of diesel, and 2.8 of kerosene. The costs include pipeline and depot losses, as well as delivery within 40 kilometres of Nairobi. The biggest puzzle is the newfound headroom for manoeuvring by the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, EPRA, which now routinely gives prices that deviate from the direction of the global prices and the actual landed costs, raising the questions on whether Kenyans are being denied better prices of the commodity. So, saying that actually it means that IPRA has some wiggle room to be able to regulate the prices lower, but that it would appear that they choose not to and keep the commodity at these prices, not because they're forced to, but because they can.
There are several things I'm not understanding in that story.
In the story?
Yeah.
Go.
So, for example, he's talking about the puzzle of cheaper petrol in Nakuru.
Yes.
The price, so the price, for example, of super petrol in Mombasa is 124.72 for the next
month at least.
Month. In Nairobi, 127.14. Thika Machakos around the same 127. Going into Nanyuki, 129. Liboi, 134. Where is Nakuru?
Nakuru is at 126.
Nakuru
so
is 126.75 and Eldoret 127.67. Okay. Now, 126 in Nakuru, Gilgil, Mogotio, around there, and then Olenguroni, it starts getting higher. Now, have they factored in the issue of the depot and the proximity to the depots? This is the writers of the story. Because you see, there's a depot in Nakuru. If the prices go up because of all these costs, which include the cost of pipeline, the cost of transportation, then there's an issue there.
No, I don't think
how close you are to the depot.
Yeah, I don't think this has taken that into consideration. This is all under the assumption that all the fuel that is being sold across the country at this point, has come from Mombasa. You get it? And that is not...
That is true.
Yeah, but it has not factored in that there is a depot in close proximity to these towns of Nakuru, Gilgil, etc., and has not taken that into consideration. Because then you would be giving the assumption, or you'd be rather operating on the assumption that it has all come from depot that is far away from these towns.
Yeah, which is why I think now I'm faulting that story. Even in previous announcements by IPRA, Nakuru fuel is cheaper than in Nairobi. Because however, the other argument would be, if you have a depot in Nairobi and you're selling fuel in Nairobi, it should be cheap.
Yes, it should.
If you have a depot in Nakuru and the whole argument for it being a shilling cheaper is because there's a depot nearby, then it doesn't really make sense. So there's a whole question, yes, to be asked there about... Why is it that fuel that arrives in Nairobi, it's more expensive, and yet there's a depot in Nairobi, and there's a depot in Nakuru, it's 126.75, it's a shilling cheaper, and yet Eldoret, which also has a depot, it's at 127.67.
This is what I'm saying, that on IPRA now, there is the possibility to actually play with these costs and regulate and have them go downward. It's possible. Or at least give an explanation that makes sense as to why you have a storage facility close to you so that you reduce on transportation costs, for example. You reduce on pipeline. So then why can't you have the finished product much cheaper? That's the question. That's the question. And
Kisumu is still 127.67. So the places that have a depot, 127.67. Kisumu, 127.67. Eldoret, 127.67. Well, that's I'm looking at the July prices. And Nairobi, 127.14. Nakuru is a shilling cheaper. Yeah, a big question there then to be asked.
Yep, for sure.
Why is it cheaper in Nakuru than it is in Nairobi?
Anywhere else.
Yeah, in other parts. That's a big question. That's true. It's a big question that needs to be asked. There's a story that I've seen here on page 4 of the Standard.
Yep.
Senators from the coast have backed the proposed coconut bill, saying its proposals will improve earnings from the crop. The leaders are saying the majority of coastal people stand to benefit if the Coconut Industry Development Bill 2021 is enacted. Senators Mohamed Faki of Mombasa, Issa Jumaboy of Kwale, Kilifi Stewart Madzayo were speaking during the first day of a public participation forum at a Mombasa hotel. This proposed bill has the backing of the Senate Standing Committee on Agriculture. The forum brought together stakeholders and farmers from Kilifi, Kwale, Mombasa, Lamu, Tana River and Taita. So this is the Coconut Industry Development Bill. The bill will address issues that hinder the development of the crop. Remember, we had even talked about this at some point. It's talking about giving farmers power to get more out of the coconut tree, the coconut plant. And what else? It seeks to establish the Coconut Industry Development Board. Once fully operational, the board will have its headquarters in Kilifi. And according to the Micro Enterprise Support Program Trust, Kenya's coconut subsector supports more than 100,000 households in the coast region. So there's a bill that's been there. There's a bill that has taken forever. It's gone into Parliament now. It's in the Senate. It's going through public participation. And the question is, okay, is it going to bring the value that farmers really require?
Yeah.
When we're talking about improving coastal economies of the coast, if so many people have been depending on this crop forever, why haven't we ever had something like this?
To improve, to make it better.
Yes.
To say, can we derive more from it?
Yes.
I mean, so beyond the oil, what else can you do? Value add. Can we then, coconut at the coast, cotton in the west, fish in the north. There's so many things that can be done if you're just paying attention to these industries. Why then has attention not been given? Why can't it? Okay, fine. We forget about what happened in the past. Why can't we presently and moving forward actually start to implement and not just talk, but implement some of these things that actually benefit the people of these communities where these natural resources are domiciled? Why is it not possible to do it?
It's a good move, and that's why I picked up this story. It's a good move. I just ask myself why it took so long to get where it has gotten, why it has taken this long to actually get a bill through Parliament, why it has taken this long for those senators that are now championing it, those from Mombasa, Kwale, Kilifi, to actually bring it to the floor of the House. Stuart Madzayo is not a first-time senator.
Nope.
He's been there.
Son of the soil.
Yeah. It's 6:30. Let's take a break, take a look at the traffic, and then we look at more headlines. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
The name is NCBA, and the numbers that matter to you matter to us. Get your NCBA asset finance loan approved in just 24 hours, as well as your car insurance, and start counting the journeys with your loved ones. NCBA Bank. Go for it. NCBA Bank is regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya.
Gone are the days when hiring should be about hitting the brick wall, because we understand how much it means to have the ideal candidate working for you and your organization. That's why at Standard Jobs website, we offer the complete employer dashboard that lets you interact fully with applicants, lets you track the full hiring process through a qualified specific smart search tool. What's more, we offer a full-on custom branded page that lets your company stand out with your own to choose custom page. So visit www.standardmedia.co.ke/jobs today and let's help you find the next ideal candidate for you.
You know, when you see someone being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say, I'm a Christian and all that, and you know they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you, because you elect us. You know, we don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us, assert our will.
When the legislature are now being taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason, we are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality. We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learned that Jeshi Lokop is Jeshi Lawoko?
I can't say it very well.
And everyone knows. Okay.
This is the Situation Room. The only
All
way
right,
to
it's already
start
building
your
up on
day.
Mombasa Road like we saw previously, and it looks like it's going to get quite sticky through the day with this. We're seeing a little bit of traffic then along that Imara-Daima stretch. And then in other parts of the city, Langata Road already building up. That's traffic coming from the southern bypass. Jogo Road, as you head towards the city, also quite packed. And looks like it'll be that way for some time. Coming out of Westlands as well, that issue... Muthui is also packed as you try to either go towards Thika Road or then towards the city. Muthui at that corner with Kiambu Road also, we see quite a lot of traffic, as well as coming out of the other side on Westlands on Waiyaki Way. So remember that you can use the Red Hill bypass, the Red Hill Link Road, use that to get into the city much quicker than sitting in traffic. Let's keep an eye out. We'll see what happens when we get into traffic hour proper, but for now, things seem manageable, at least for now. Talk to us should you need to. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text on 40127.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings
It's
done
25
right.
to 7. We look at more headlines in the papers.
Okay. So, I lost it. But here it is. Okay. Court set to give BBI case ruling. That's a story that we'll look at, I'm sure, with more detail. But before that, chiefs are quizzed over the Kitengela killings. Police have questioned and released 4 people considered to be of high interest to the investigation. They've questioned 2 local administrators over the gruesome killings of 4 young men at Mkamuriaki village in Kitengela on the 8th of August. 2 brothers, Victor Mwangi at 25 and Frederick Mureithi 30, and their friends Michael Onduso 29 and Nicholas Musa 28 were reportedly lynched by a mob over suspicion that they were livestock thieves. It later turned out that they were bikers who often explored different parts of the country in their free time, especially the weekends. Their mutilated bodies were later dumped near Munjiriri River. Their bikes were torched along with their personal documents. The 3 of them, sporting dreadlocks, were good friends who usually spent time together in the area. Police now want to establish the role the 2 administrators in Isinya sub-county played, either in an attempt to save the victims or to incite the mob. We have placed them at the scene of the murder. We are moving to build a strong case. We are also aware the local community's attempt to subvert justice. The statements already recorded indicate a well-orchestrated scheme to subvert justice, according to a detective. They have already questioned and released 4 persons considered to be of high interest to the investigation, according to them. The first one, who was picked up from his home on Friday night, is a local politician and a licensed gun holder who is said to have fired in the air 14 times at the murder scene. Police want to establish the reasons behind his action and how he arrived at the scene. They're also combing the village for the weapons the mob used in the killings. So last Friday, the community had planned a crisis meeting on how to protect the suspects, but organizers changed the agenda from realizing intelligence after realizing intelligence officers had infiltrated them. Instead, they discussed rampant livestock theft in the region. The boys were to celebrate Victor's birthday at Onduso's home and had ordered 3 live chicken from the neighbor. The neighbor was to prepare the chicken for them. It was their trend whenever they were around. They paid generously, according to the villager. The bikers were well known in the area. Previously, it was reported that they didn't really know who they were, but they looked suspicious, right? But apparently they were well known and spent most of their time riding their bikes, enjoying the scenery. They went biking near Munjiriri River. They would spend hours here admiring the great scenery and taking photos. As fate would have it, the same river became their last point of call after an altercation with a villager turned deadly. Their families are now demanding justice and have urged the police to expedite the investigation, saying their loved ones were innocent. We won't stop pushing hard for justice. The villagers' action was barbaric and unacceptable. We just want justice to prevail and suspects punished according to the law, according to Joseph Masharia, who is an uncle to the brothers.
This story, it's kind of taking new twists every day.
Every day, news.
So people who have been here before, people have known they had ordered the chicken at a neighbor's. The neighbor, therefore, knows them. Initially, there were stories of Nyumbakumi people being involved. Now there's a whole issue of a local leader, a politician who is a licensed firearm holder, who is at the scene, who was fired 14 times. Then there's the issue of the chiefs and what the chiefs were doing, because the local administrators have been found in the scene. How many people were involved in this mob justice?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Is it a mob of 10, 20, 100, 5? What?
And then it turns out that there was an altercation with one person that's why it now escalated.
That deteriorated into this.
Yeah, you see, what worries me though is that, which I guess it's very important, especially when you're looking at investigations to build your case. And as you get more details, that is then what contributes to the full story. But to have completely different versions is what bothers me.
There are very many stories that are coming out of here. From the first day, there was the issue of one of the bikes had gotten spoiled, had broken down near the river. They were repairing the bike. 2, they were going to get chicken. 2, there were people who came out. Now there's an altercation. The chiefs was aware. The Nyumbakumi head was aware. There's a local politician what's happening?
And then now it turns out that they knew the area and everybody knew who they were.
That they've been seen before.
So totally different from the initial account whereby they were suspected to be livestock thieves. I mean, you can't have such contradicting stories over the same matter. What exactly is going on here? And then unfortunately, it results in death of 4 individuals. Why? This trajectory that these things are taking is very, very worrisome. It's very worrisome.
Aye. Let's hope that justice actually prevails in this particular matter. Right? So there's a story about teachers in the backbed of the nation. Remember, we were having this conversation even last week on teachers who are not members of any union. Right? That's about 190,000 of them are not affiliated to any union. But when either NAT or KUPPET or the others that we talked about, the ones for primary teachers, there's a union for TVET, there's a union, there's what. When any of them goes and signs a collective bargaining agreement with the Teacher Service Commission, even the other 190 enjoy the benefits of the CBA. So there was a whole conversation, and TSC had said, well, we need to pay an agency fee to the union that negotiated the CBA that you're getting
today.
Whose benefits you're reaping. However, 2 teachers have moved to court seeking to stop the Ministry of Labour from gazetting the fees from non-unionizable tutors. The petitioners are arguing that they should not be subjected to payment of agency fees based on the 21 to 25 non-monetary collective bargaining agreement because it did not result in a salary increase. In their papers filed in Kisumu, Stephen Onditi and Paul Nziathiu want the court to issue an injunction against the TSC from effecting any orders from the Ministry of Labour on the fee. They have listed NAT, KUPPET, the Kenya Union of Special Needs Education Teachers, KUSNET, the Teachers Service Commission, and the Cabinet Secretary for Labour and Social Protection as respondents. They are saying there's a new CBA that has been signed between NAT and TSC. That has not come with any money. It just comes with other non-monetary benefits.
Yeah.
Okay? So why should I be paying an agency fee when I have not received any money? Are you receiving the benefits? The petitioners say the intended action by the Labour and Social Protection CS to gazette agency fees will have adverse psychological effects and it will be unfair under the circumstances. An agency fee is charged of 1.8%. By Kupet, NAT takes 2%. KUSNET claims 1.45% of basic salary. If gazetted, the over 190,000 teachers who are not affiliated to any union in both primary and secondary schools will be deducted the fee, which will then be forwarded to the bodies.
It's almost as though you're forcing everybody to be unionized. Because, but whether you are or not, you get the benefit, right?
That's the thing.
Yeah, whether you are or not, you get the benefit. So then on that side, it just makes sense that you would then...
if Kupet comes and negotiates, and
they're not negotiating just for those who are unionized. They're negotiating for everybody, right? So it makes sense then that you would be charged the fee if
you benefit from a CBA.
From the CBA upon which all of this is hedged.
Yeah.
It makes sense. However, being unionized is not mandatory. You don't have to.
No.
Exactly. However, there's some things that come along with it in terms of benefits that are then applied to everybody.
And the union members are paying a membership fee.
Yes.
All right, which is deducted from their salary.
On top of this, yes.
So
I don't see the...
It's a tricky one, this one. It's a tricky one. It's 7:15. Let's take another short break and look at more headlines shortly. Are you reading the paper as we are? Just if you have a telecom line, make sure that you can access the standard e-paper, because this is how you can do it. On telecom, just dial star 550 star 1 hash and you get the standard e-paper for 20 bob daily. If you want the Nairobian, just dial star 550 star 2 hash. And if you want the daily newspaper pullouts, today is about Health Digest. You get star 550 star 3 hash for daily pullouts at 5 bob. All these fees, 20 bob for the e-paper, 20 bob for the Nairobian, and 5 bob daily for the pullouts, are deducted from your airtime on a daily basis. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done.
All right, it's 7:15. Very good morning.
So the BBI ruling will be this Friday. Are you excited?
Yeah.
You sound really excited. My gosh.
Yes.
It's palpable. At the end of this week, the country is set to witness the beginning of a major shakeup in the political landscape as the Court of Appeal renders its decision on the BBI. The much-awaited judgment of the 7-judge bench led by Court of Appeal President Daniel Musinga is billed to be a make-or-break moment for the handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga. The second highest court is expected to clear or block the road to a referendum to, among others, expand the executive and create the office of an ombudsman to oversee the judiciary. Observers say should the Court of Appeal uphold the High Court decision in its entirety, President Kenyatta will lose a chance to engineer his succession in 2022. At a time, he is also reported to have settled on Mr. Odinga as his preferred heir. Okay. And should the appellate judges overturn the High Court's decision, their judgment will put the president at the center of his succession. BBI had a subtle political agenda of isolating Deputy President William Ruto. I'm quoting. Its net effect is to give a platform to anti-Ruto to coalesce during its campaign and share the subsequent BBI posts once created. Collapse of the BBI at the High Court dented Raila's image, according to Dr. Irungu Kangata, the Murang'a senator and lawyer. The appeals court will either endorse or overturn the High Court declaration that President Kenyatta had acted illegally by driving the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020 and that he will be sued in person while still in office. However, in his appeal, Mr. Kenyatta denied being the driver of the initiator of the BBI process, saying the same was being done by a steering committee led by Mr. Junet Mohammed and Mr. Dennis Wawero. So, judges will be dealing with each of the 22 declarations issued by the High Court while rejecting the proposed Constitution amendment.
Wow.
4 days from now, let the TikTok begin.
Yeah, the Supreme Court judge is ready to start receiving the appeal. Because either way, somebody will appeal. Somebody's pushing it up there. We'll be talking about police and police reforms and the conduct of individual police officers and police officers as a group collectively later. But there's a story on page 20 of the Standard today. The police boss lifting the spirits of children living with disabilities. This is talking about a police officer called Salesio Mureithi. He is the OCPD of Endebess. The police officer basically is a man who loves music. He's a senior superintendent of police. He loves music and is reported to be fond of children, a natural pull that binds him with pupils of St. Lillian's School in Endebess. This is a school that caters for children with disabilities. St. Lillian's is a special school for the physically challenged in Trans Nzoia County with 200 pupils and is a unique academic center in its own right. The school boasts of the pupils reached by diverse cultural backgrounds and the vibrant energy displayed in extracurricular activities. When the Standard visited the school last week, this police officer, Mureithi, was engaging the pupils in a game of musical chairs as a warm-up to the session that he was about to undertake. The story is talking about how this officer usually goes to the school during his free time. He engages the students. He basically teaches. He volunteers to teach these kids. He loves music, so he teaches them music. And there are photos of him with some musical instruments, and he's trying to teach the children, these children living with disability, how to play some of these instruments, playing a drum, playing a flute, and others. Mureithi enrolled in a music program at Kenyatta University where he graduated with a bachelor's degree in music. He has also earned various titles and accolades owing to his industrious work and support to the community. Mureithi has a head of state commendation in scouting and is the vice president of the International Police Association Kenya chapter. In all his postings, he has always found a way of interacting with local communities. He says this helps him perform well in his job. His daughter, Patricia Wawera, whose stage name is Don Wera, emulated him but majored in the reggae genre.
You know what? It stands out like a sore thumb. And I think that's the thing. That such a case like this becomes a story because the opposite is the norm.
Yep.
The opposite is that people see the police and run in the opposite direction. That that very few of the police service are endearing to other human beings. So when you see something like this, somebody who's taking his spare time, working with children, it looks odd. It looks different. It's like you're almost asking, what's wrong with this fellow?
Yep.
Whereby it shouldn't be the case. It should not. It really, really shouldn't be the case. But the question is that why on earth is that? It does stand out because it is not the norm.
People wonder, okay, so what? Why? What is so different about this cop?
What's wrong with him?
He's so human.
Yes, exactly. Isn't that sad though?
He is so human. It's a good thing to see such. And I think there are very many other police officers who are like this. What needs to be done is to highlight more of such. Let communities actually even come over and celebrate. When there's a police officer who's doing something and is making all the effort to integrate with the community, to make sure that people... Because you go to very many areas where you'll hear people saying, there was a so-and-so here who was an OCS, who was OCPD, and he was very good. Or he is here, or she is here, and they are very, very good. It's it's something to talk about.
I do agree, though, because I think there's something about seeing a positive or some issue or something that has developed well over time. There's something about it that then spurs it on for either knowledge of other people or for others to then join on and do it as well. There's something about seeing something like that that then either boosts your confidence or rights any imperfected stories or images that you had in your mind. To say that this is actually possible, then maybe gives you a different kind of outlook. So I do agree that more of these should actually be highlighted, communicated, people made aware that there actually are quite a number of these guys who are not all bad apples, right? Because unfortunately, right now, the majority of the cases that we see,
things are just...
people are dying at the hands of police.
People are just, it's just left, right, and center. Complaints upon complaints.
Ridiculous. And it shouldn't be. It really shouldn't. Okay. So, access myths derail the uptake of jabs. It's still an issue now. You know how we said it would be a good idea every morning to just kind of say, the vaccines are available at this place, go and get them.
Yeah.
So ignorance and lack of easy access, myths, disinformation, and traditional religious beliefs are derailing the uptake of COVID-19 vaccine in counties, apparently, according to this report. A situation report released by the Health Ministry last week shows that northern Kenya is lagging behind in vaccinations, with some counties such as Marsabit having fully inoculated a paltry 0.03% of the population. According to the report, Turkana recorded 0.4% of the AstraZeneca uptake, Tana River 0.4%, Wajir 0.4%, Garissa 0.5%, Kilifi 0.7%, Lamu 0.7%, West Pokot the same, Kwale 0.6%, and Madera 0.5%. Not even 1% of the populations across all of these counties has been vaccinated. Nationally, only 2 in 100 Kenyans have been fully vaccinated, and about 2 million had received the first dose by the end of last week. Of this number, over 721,000 had turned up for their second doses, majorly in Nairobi. In the north, a belief that vaccines are meant for children has seen many residents avoid the jab, as others cite long distances and costly travel to vaccination centres in county referral hospitals. So there are many reasons why people are not taking these vaccinations. But I think it's very interesting that access to, in terms of the vaccine being available, I'm not saying that you have to travel to get it or this, that, the other thing. I'm saying the availability of the thing in the country has not been listed as one of the reasons why people are not getting it.
That's the thing. Because you see, as you talk about 0.3%, 0.3% of what? Of the vaccines sent to this county or of the population of the county? Because how many vaccines have actually been sent are available in Marsabit County, in Garissa County, in Mandera County? Then we can say, out of 100,000 doses of vaccine, only 3
have come.
3 people have come.
They're not telling us how many are available. Conveniently, that is the only thing that has been left out. Everything else has been listed. Oh, apathy because people believe vaccines are for children. You're not able to go to get the vaccine because it's a long distance and we don't have that amount of money.
Yeah.
Oh, they're only available at county. No. How much
and
is
how
actually
much
available
information
in the
is
country?
out there? Yeah. How many people have been told, look, there is a vaccine? Can we say today that if you go to a village in any of those counties that you've listed, you will find people know that, yes, the vaccine is available, and today it's available at such and such a facility.
This dispensary, go there today, go get it. That's those who've been inoculating are waiting and saying, we're just waiting for people to come.
Yeah.
Here's the vaccine in plenty. We're waiting for the humans to show up. I think that information is vital to then be able to validate this.
Yeah, because it goes with people's just information, all right? People just need knowing the vaccine is available. And this time, unlike the previous time when it was only teachers, doctors, police officers who were going to get the vaccine, now if you get this information, you can go and get the vaccine.
Yeah.
How many people know that?
That's
today?
true. It's true. Because how do people know? There was a picture of a lady, and I think it was quite interesting. It was over the last couple of days. She was going through her village. Every time she heard that the vaccine's available at the dispensary, she had a bell. Like, the bell at school, the big ding-a-ling bell. She would walk through saying, vaccine available here. And that's somebody who's taking it upon herself to go and do this. But in terms of widespread information saying, it's here, come today, that kind of thing, it's not there. These are individuals who are taking, and then people go because they've heard the bell ringing in the streets and they say, okay, let's go and get. And I don't think that the vaccines are available and Kenyans are saying, okay, let's just sit around and not get it because, no, it's not there.
People just don't know. Right? You go to, so the Oloitoktok level 4, level 5 hospital, I think 4 or 5, has the vaccines available. But that thing covers it's over 100 kilometers radius of the people that it covers. Go to very many of those places, people don't know that it's available. It hasn't even been taken there. So the issue of cost, even if I know about it,
how do I get there?
And I have to travel all the way there to go and get it. And then I don't know how long I'll sit in the queue. Come on.
Bring it closer.
Yeah.
Bring it closer, guys.
Make people aware that this is happening. I bet you many chiefs do not even know that the vaccine is available. Chiefs who would be disseminating this information. Many ward administrators working under the county government, because now this is the county government doing the rollout. Many ward administrators do not know vaccines are available at this facility, and we need to let people know.
That's it.
If those people are not even aware, who will tell the people?
Who will tell the people?
That's the
question. Who will tell the people?
We can come up with all those things of saying, people believe vaccines are for children. What have you done to address that concern? What have you done to counter that information? Keep it right here. More conversations coming up in the next hour. What's happening around the country? Remember, at 8 o'clock, we'll be speaking with the IMLU head, Kiama, to talk about police reforms in the wake of the killings of the 2 brothers in Kenjakama and the killings of the 2 brothers and 2 of their friends in Kitengela as well. Plus, very many people who've gone missing, and family members are looking for their loved ones left, right, and center. They say the last time we saw this person, he was picked up by police officers. We've not seen them since then. Where is justice, and what is police reforms if we don't see the benefits of it? Good morning, 8:07 a.m.
Spice up your life.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Innocence Boys High School in Uasin Gishu County has been closed after Form 1 student died. The closure of the school has caused panic among parents and residents who now claim that the students were sent home without being tested for COVID-19.
Tumestuka kusikia mtoto amefariki usiku, haijapainika ni nini, otherwise tunasikia fununu kwamba ni corona, na hata kama si corona, hawa watoto wangewachiliwa bila kutestiwa.
The Ministry of Health concerned to take action on this matter and conduct a mass testing in this area of Burnt Forest, and also before the students come in, we would like to know what exactly happened to the boy.
Wanafunzi wamewachiliwa na saizi naona hata wengi tumetengana nao na hatujui kama ni corona. Sasa si kumaanisha hata si sasa wakazi wa Burnt Forest tuko kwenye shida.
Uasin Gishu County Commissioner Stephen Kihara says an investigation has been launched to determine the cause of death. A police officer who appeared drunk is said to have entered the Embu police station reporting office before tearing the occurrence book to shreds while his colleagues looked on in disbelief. As officers on duty watched, the officer Arnold Ngugi walked to the reporting office while completely inebriated, seized the OB and began tearing it apart. He is expected to be arraigned in court today. Now, a lady who fought off her attacker snatching his AK-47 now says that her life is in danger. Evelyn Baraza, a mother of 3, is now asking Interior CS Fred Matiang'i and IG Hilary Mutyambai to intervene and arrest the suspect's accomplices who are roaming free.
Kuna maneno alikiri, hata tulinakili hizo mambo zake kwa masimu. Alikiri kabisa akasema yeye alitumwa, yeye ni mtumwa tu aliitwa. Hata communication ziko kwa simu yake, tuchukue simu yake kama hatuamini. Na tulichukua simu lakini tulitaka mwenyewe akiri kwa kinywa. Na kweli alitamuka. Akasema yeye ametumwa na bunduki si yake. Bunduki ni ya afisa mmoja ambaye ni KPR. Sasa msiniue, maafisa wa polisi pia nao walichukua hizo maneno. Lakini mpaka sasa hakuna hatua yoyote imechukuliwa kwa hawa watu wawili.
Trans Nzoia residents say they are afraid for their lives because cases of armed robbery in the area have increased. An international system to share coronavirus vaccines was supposed to guarantee that low and middle income countries could get doses without being last in line and at the mercy of unreliable donations. It hasn't worked out that way. In late June, the initiative known as COVAX sent some 530,000 doses to Britain, more than double the amount sent that month to the entire continent of Africa. Under COVAX, countries were supposed to give money so vaccines could be set aside, both as donations to poor countries and as an insurance policy for richer ones to buy doses if theirs fell through. Zambian opposition leader Hakainde Hichilema has been declared the winner of the presidential election against outgoing President Edgar Lungu. Zambian Electoral Commission chairperson Esau Chulu announced the official results this morning after counting of ballots was completed in all but one of the states.
Hichilema Hakainde is 2,810,757, 2,810,757.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
All right, we're looking at heavy traffic this morning, guys. Heavy traffic from Survey. You might want to consider using alternate routes, such as Juja Road. Thank you, John, for that. Syokimau, there was no jam about 3 minutes ago. Well, you have to look at that now because there really is. And we're looking at between the printers and the nation printers and the SGR. The traffic is major this morning. Remembering that that major part of the road has been closed. Brace yourself. So we're looking at the lanes reduced to one between Mlolongo and Syokimau. You can only use one route now. A lot of folks are using the ICD route to then come out at General Motors. But yes, it's a lot of folks. So we have traffic on Mombasa Road. We have traffic on the ICD route, then going towards the Southern Bypass. Probably makes sense to use the Southern Bypass out through the city in that direction. So think about that. So where are we looking at those hotspots this morning? Thika Road, we're looking at Mombasa Road. We're also looking a little bit on Langata Road and a little bit on Gong Road. It looks like it's going to be that manic Monday morning. Hopefully we'll come out of it while still breathing. And the way to do that is help one another out. Do you find a good route that you can use this morning? Please do tell us about it on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. You can text as well on 40127. We want to get people where they're going on time without being a little bit... rather while being sane. We want to do that this morning. Help us out, guys. SpiceFM KE on Twitter again. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
Lovely Monday morning, 16th day of August 2021. A very good morning wherever you're tuned in around the world or around the country. Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi, or SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and www.spicefm.co.ke. Today's proverb, C.T. Muga is away for the day. He'll be back tomorrow, God willing. Having a good conversation is like having riches. It's an African proverb by those African people.
Those ones. Okay.
Having a good conversation is like having riches. Some conversations though are not good, like the one people are having in traffic on Mombasa Road today. What on earth is happening? So section of the road has been closed where?
Okay. So let's look at where this...
Everybody who's coming from, let's start. You're coming from Garsen, Lamu, coming all the way from the border in Kwale with Tanzania, coming from Namanga, coming from Tanzania through Namanga, Mombasa, everybody in between, they find themselves at Mlolongo. And then?
Then they stop.
Mm-hmm.
Because... See, there used to be Mombasa Road.
Yes.
I say that, I'm not even joking, because there used to be
Mombasa Road.
Right? There was the 2 lanes, at least, that were going towards the city, and then there was what is called the old Mombasa Road that then just crosses just outside the road to the SGR. So there were options for you to go into town. There were also options coming in from town.
Yep.
Again, the 2 lanes that pass in front of the SGR, and then the service lane, which passes through going as well.
Yeah.
Now, all of those is how many? At least options? 3 going, 3 coming.
Yep.
Now they've all been reduced to 2.
2 roads or 2 lanes?
2 lanes. 1 inbound, 1 outbound.
So everybody who's coming to Nairobi this morning has 1 lane.
To use.
And this includes all the trucks.
Everybody.
That are going to Rwanda and DRC.
And Uganda. Everybody is using 1 lane. Everybody says, yes, there's the ICD route, but guess what? Everyone who also is going to use the ICD route is going through 1 lane, through 1 gate, out towards the ICD route. So now, all vehicles using that road, plus all the individuals who decide that they are in a hurry more than everybody else and decide to overlap and using this 1 lane, plus all the trucks, lorries who are having to stand and weigh at the weighbridge and then creating that, remember, that weighbridge line is also part of this 1 lane. Previously, you could say you will pass because that is the weighbridge line and you don't have to be stuck in that traffic. Everybody, plus the weighbridge line, plus everybody is using that 1 lane outbound. My problem is this. Inform people about... Now, what we're talking about now, this 1 lane that exists, was not the situation on Friday. Today is Monday.
Hey.
So people have woken up this morning and what you used yesterday is not available today. Yesterday, on Friday night, people got to their homes between 3 and 4 a.m. And we're talking about a stretch between Kitengela and the Standard Group Center here at General Motors. A stretch that would ordinarily take you 10 minutes, 15 minutes with no traffic. Police told us that they were able to count, somehow estimate that on Friday night, between Mlolongo and here General Motors, that there was a gridlock of 5,000 vehicles. People were not able to move. People now had started going the wrong way. And that was Friday night when things maybe were at a dull roar. This morning, everybody is going to work using 1 route. And a further section of the road has been closed. What was the cause of the
traffic on Friday? What had they closed?
Okay, so now, initially in the morning, it was semi all right because there was still that double road that was still open.
Mm-hmm.
So now they closed one side of it as they continued to dig away at the road. So still partially was open, but they had closed one side and there was still this massive traffic then coming from Kitengela. Today, the other part that was open still Friday has been closed.
And
so you make the turning. So you're coming from town. Let's say you're making the turning at Gateway Mall and you're trying to turn going back towards the city. You get to the crossing and it has been closed. You take the diversion going towards the SGR. Everybody. Because there's no road. It has been dug up.
The last time the Kenya National Highways Authority tweeted was 5 days ago. They were talking about WHO declared road safety a global issue, 1.3 million with collaboration between various transport sector players and the police. Road accidents can be prevented and lives saved. And then 2 days ago, Kenha Board was inspecting development That was Engineer Wangai Ndirango, the chairman, accompanied by board members Brenda Mayabi, Winfrida Ngumi, Julius Mwatu, together with Kenha Management, led by the acting DG Engineer David Muchilwa, were inspecting development and maintenance projects in Nairobi, South Rift and Central regions. Kenha is committed to construction and maintenance of its networks to the highest international standards. That was 2 days ago. 2 days ago was Saturday.
Well, okay, Saturday.
Yeah?
Yes.
So anything about what happened on Friday?
No.
It's none
Didn't
of their
feature.
business.
No, they're working on the road.
People slept on the road.
Yes.
Road.
Yes.
We don't deal with roads. We deal with highways.
Not our problem. Somebody said
There's a construction of the Nairobi Expressway between Mlolongo and ABC Place.
Yes.
Yeah, but people understand this. I mean, hasn't it been on the news? There's construction of the road.
No, you should expect
You should
that you wake
expect
up
that
in the
there's going
morning
to
and
be
the road that
something.
was there last night is not there this
What's
morning.
your problem?
What's the problem? You know that there's an express.
When there's a diversion, we usually announce. Like now, we told you between Kenyatta Avenue and University Way, there's going to be some diversion there. All right? Through Uhuru Highway, we'll create an extra lane to ensure there's smooth flowing of traffic. Now, the rest is just people with their bad manners. Maybe that's the attitude that they have, because we haven't heard anything from Kenha. I'm not seeing anything on their Twitter.
Let me admit, however, that I have seen this what did you call it, bad manners?
Yes.
That in addition to the already compounded situation of this terrible traffic and everybody, because you must understand, it's not just people living in the dormitory towns, Kitengela, whomever coming into the city, it's people coming from further ahead, other towns.
People have traveled from Mombasa
And are now stuck in this. But there are still people who feel that they are in a greater hurry than others, and the overlapping is an issue. It's not even funny, because you have people who are going in the opposite direction, then coming and blocking the road in an already difficult situation. So I tend to also say that, yes, there is a huge failure on the part of the contractor, number one, to be able to explain to people or to be able to even create diversions. Because truth be told, if this was happening in another country, in specifically another part of the world, yes, there would be adequate information, there would be proper signage, there would be prior information, you would know what you were doing. Apart from that, there would be plans for alternate routes to get where you're going. Not this nonsense where you're trying to traverse through a jungle to get into the city. That's what's going on. That's what's going on.
You know, yes, I agree that there is bad manners by motorists, and you witness that. There's a small traffic snarl up and everybody starts trying to get their way. Why? It's because you're trying to get your way out. You do not know anything else. If there is proper management of traffic, you will not find that kind of behavior. I put this squarely on those people that I've mentioned before, and I'm going to mention them again. There's a cabinet secretary in charge of this project. That's the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development, James Macharia. There's a Principal Secretary in charge of this project, and that's the Principal Secretary for the State Department of Infrastructure, and this is Professor Architect Paul Maringa. There's now the Acting DG of the Kenya National Highways Authority. The previous DG has gone on terminal leave. His term is coming to an end. There's an Acting DG. Basically, there are people who wake up every morning. There's an office called the Kenya National Highways Authority, which is within the airport. They don't live in the airport. They live in other parts of this city. They go to work every morning. And there's somebody who's in charge of oversighting this project. But when something like that is happening, when the contractor is closing a road because they need to do something, you have not had a conversation about what alternative routes are we providing. Where can people go? Everybody who is coming to Nairobi, and before you started this project, you had already done some statistics. You know the number of vehicles that are on that road on a Monday at 6 a.m., on a Monday at 5:30 a.m., on a Monday at 8 a.m. You know the number of cars that are going to be on that road between midnight and midday on a day like today. And then you haven't even made alternative arrangements and said, this is where we want you to pass as you go to work. I call that negligence. I said I don't want to use the word incompetence because that may be unfair, and I don't know how to gauge the competency of some of these engineers, but I call it negligence.
I think it's still that.
It's somebody not doing their job.
It's that whole attitude of you'll figure it out as you go along. But, at the end of the day, what we are doing is for your, eventual good. So you'll figure it out. It's going to be uncomfortable for the meantime. But, after all, this is being done. But I saw a comment and I said, actually, you know what? This is it. That you're being inconvenienced at this time. You're going through some serious inconvenience for a project that eventually you're still going to have to come and pay for to use.
Yeah.
So even this inconvenience that you feel, this is not the end of it. That this whole drama that you're going through right now is so that you will still then bequeath the road for which you will have to pay to go to and fro
And
in order for you to use to avoid the same traffic that you've been going through right now to get this one. But honestly, the situation on the road is not good at all. We're seeing people going to work to get to a job at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and they're leaving the homes at 4 a.m. What are we doing? Look, I am development girl number one. I am all for development. But I say that there need to be adequate alternatives in the meantime while people still have to use the same roads to go. Fine, chalk it up to poor planning. There was never anything. But today, is there something that you can do? Absolutely. You can. You can. I had a quick chat with somebody who lives in the States, and she had come to Nairobi for some meetings. And she said to me, absolutely not. In Florida, the road is being worked on. You will be told weeks in advance. And those weeks that they're using to construct an alternative, not some bumpy option that you have here to even ruin your vehicle.
Not a diversion somewhere and then go find your way.
No. Weeks in advance, a proper diversion has been constructed, and everybody is aware. What does she call him? Your council, somebody. So she called him council somebody. Is the one who is giving this information in their town hall, saying, this is the new road that you'll be using while this other one is being fixed. She was traumatized. She came and she was like, what is this?
What madness is this?
What madness is this? She said, absolutely not. Something like this would never, ever happen.
And I think these officials, because I start from the CS, but I come down to there's somebody whose job is that. There's somebody who's actually been given the job, assigned. There's a new project. You are in charge of that project. Make sure everything is aligned before we kick off the project. Make sure that you know how transport will be managed, alternative routes will be made. You'll have milestones and conversations with the contractor. If the contractor is now at the point where they need to do this and the other at a certain section, they need to close down that section. You already know in advance, this is how we are going to divert traffic, not by just blocking the road and telling people, you see that?
That over there. Look, just follow those guys.
Find your way around there. There's no fence. Find your way. You can't be doing that. And at the end of every month, you go back home and with a salary. And there's nobody who's finding a problem with that. I have a problem with that.
The bare minimum. But that's
not even the bare minimum. That's doing nothing.
It's nothing. But is there a difference between that and the hopeful resilience that Kenyans would have, no matter the situation? So today, it is an expressway that's being built. It's going to inconvenience you for some time, but we know that Kenyans will be able to make do. You'll come home at 3 o'clock, you'll be tired, but then you'll rest on Saturday, right? And you'll come out ready to face the new week. That there's this resilience, that there is this something that Kenyans have whereby they'll say, okay, you know what? We're going to wake up tomorrow and start again. We're going to wake up tomorrow and try. We're going to finish this assignment and try and do it quickly so that we can get back on Mombasa Road and then we get back home. Or we get back to, there's this assumed, there's a word that's used in Swahili, kuvumilia. There's that assumption that Kenyans will vumilia and they will get over it, that they'll make noise for some time, but it will be fine later. It is that same assumed behavior that is taken, whether you want to look at leadership, whether you want to look at fuel today, petrol, cost of living going higher, whether you want to look at education and, okay, we're going to cram kids into a classroom, we're going to teach under a tree, healthcare, okay, we don't have it tomorrow, come tomorrow. It's that thing. It's that assumed attitude that Kenyans are going to be able to just take it, and so you can keep dishing it out and not do even the bare minimum when it requires you to. That Kenyans will be resilient, so, we'll get over this rough patch and we'll be fine. No.
And the message is, just be patient.
It'll be okay.
You can't be patient. You cannot reduce such a highway into a single lane. And part of the traffic that uses that highway is long trucks. Once when you just bring in the trucks onto the road, so what have you done? You've closed it.
You've closed the road. You've closed the road.
That people are now having conversations, the best way to go to Nairobi. If you're coming from Syokimau, Athi-River, Mlolongo, Sabaki, Kitengela, Machakos, use Kitengela, go to Isinya, go to Kiserian, go to Matasia, Karen, into town.
Can you? And it's not a joke.
It makes more sense to try and use that route.
It's a 1 hour drive, but no stopping, instead of 3 to 6 hours on Mombasa Road. And that is what we're talking about. 3 to 6 hours on a stretch of less than 4 kilometers.
This is absolute nonsense.
It's ridiculous.
It's absolute nonsense. We take in too much of this and we allow these officials to do this. This is mediocrity. If we continue allowing mediocrity, we are doing a disservice to ourselves. We've been looking for the PS, and we'll be able to have him on the show soon to explain to us what the plan has been. What was the plan initially for traffic management when this was happening? And this is not just the end. So it ends at ABC Place. If you are going to Nakuru from Mombasa, you have another problem that's been there for a while between ABC Place and Rironi in Limuru. And some construction that has been there for forever. Every time the CS goes, they says the contractor is asking for 2 months when we're telling him, no, you can't have 2 months. He extended that by 4 months. I think the 4 months have come to an end. That road is nowhere near complete.
Yeah.
The section between Westlands and Limuru, not complete. Very soon, the French are going to start the project from Rironi to Mau Summit. More tears. That entire stretch, if you're going to Kisumu, you will be in perpetual pain for the next God knows how many years. And then very soon, the Americans are going to get on the ground as well between Mombasa and Machakos Junction. So you are coming from Mombasa. You want to go to Busia, my friend.
2 days. Plan. No, but is that not what we're talking about?
With the attitude that we see from the Highways Authority.
It'll be 2 days unless you choose to fly. And the majority of people cannot. Majority of people cannot afford to. So before you start getting into that discussion.
This is just too much, and it's not fair at all. And it's what I say. It's mediocre, and mediocrity should not be something that we entertain. It shouldn't. People cannot be spending nights on the road. That was a Friday. That means there were children who were coming from school.
Yes.
Spent nights on the road.
School buses were stuck. And
nobody feels like they're responsible. Nobody even comes out to say, this has happened. Let's actually have this urgent meeting. The CS, the PS, call the Kenha, call police, call the contractor and say, let's have none of this again.
I was coming to work today, and the bus that you normally see, a particular school, taking children, going to pick children up, normally you wouldn't see it at that hour. But today at 4 a.m., that bus was going to pick children. They leave earlier because they know they must get off of Mombasa Road before it is 6 a.m. So what does that do? What does that do? Before we were already saying it was too early to pick children up because of traffic, etc., etc. Now this issue has been compounded. They're leaving at before 4. We're talking about children under the age of 18 who still need their rest to be able to even learn this thing that we're saying they should go and learn in the first place. And you say, okay, but it's just for a time. That time is enough to destroy many gains that have been made in the lives of children. That's how serious this thing is we're talking about. It's not just that a road is being constructed and it's a little bit of uncomfortability for a short period of time. We're talking about many, many processes that can be dented and damaged as a result of this mediocrity that you're talking about, Eric. Children getting home at 10 p.m. after having left at 4. What are we doing? What are we doing?
And nobody has found it important.
It's not odd. It's
to
not
address
urgent. Deal with it. No. But we'll be done by December.
And it's not the first time this year that people have actually spent a night on the road here. Mediocrity is a bad thing. 26 minutes after 7, let's take a quick break so we can breathe in and breathe out and then come back and talk about what else is happening. So Zambia is going to have a new president. There's new leadership taking place in Afghanistan. And there's a disaster that's unfolding right in front of our eyes in Haiti. Let's discuss those things that are happening around the world. Good morning.
This is The Situation Room the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Have you seen them? Am I lying?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good job.
Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Everyone in Wasingishu was asking me, what channel is Spice FM?
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
you.
you.
What a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you. And it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here. Very Swiss temperatures.
24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial *550*1# to read the Standard e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line, and stay up to date for a reliable source with over 100 years of experience with no additional data charges.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Losing a loved one is never easy. The lingering memories, the what-ifs, but in all the gloom, we find ways of celebrating them. And here at the Standard Tributes, we aim to give your loved ones that befitting send-off. Visit www.standardmedia.co.ke/tributes today and post your loved one's tribute. In addition, get access to funeral services from our trusted
All right,
vendors.
partly cloudy conditions in Nairobi at 14. That'll be the low for today, going to highs of 20. 13 and cloudy in Nyeri, highs of 19. 24 will be the high in a cloudy Nakuru at 13. 23 is the high in Eldoret today. It's sunny at 13. Partly sunny conditions at 17 in Kisumu, highs of 27. 27 will be the high in Kakamega. It's partly sunny at 17. Light rain at 23 in Mombasa with highs of 28. 28 will also be the high in a rainy Malindi, currently at 25. It's 18 degrees and sunny in Kampala, highs of 26 and lows of 17. Raining in Dar es Salaam at 23, highs of 29. 19 will be the high, and temperatures dropping in Johannesburg now at 6. Light rain in Lagos at 25, highs of 29. 31 will be the high in Kinshasa, where it's raining at 24.
Spice and everything nice. All right, okay.
Spice up your life.
So always looking for alternate routes, and it looks quite crazy on Mombasa Road this morning. And folks are saying that the alternate route right now, if you're coming from Athi River, etc., use Kitengela, Isinya, Kiserian, and Karen into the city. That's what we are being told this morning. It is quite crazy on Mombasa Road this morning, and we're seeing traffic all the way from the Kitengela, Athi River junction there. So avoid at all costs if you can, and you're coming into the city from there. We're also looking at quite a lot of traffic on Langata Road and also Jogo Road as well. Industrial area, Lunga jam-packed as you're getting out towards the city. We're also looking at more traffic on Thika Road today. It is at a standstill all the way from Survey through to Pangani, and that connection between Kiambu Road and Muthui Square, it is really crazy this morning. It's that Monday. Today is that day. So we're going to have to look for good routes, guys. If you have any, let us know. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It's 29 minutes to 8 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. In The Situation Room this morning is Eric Latif and Nduoko, our colleague. CT Muga is away for the day. Now, there's something that's happening around the world. Let's start with Haiti. A 7.2 magnitude earthquake struck the country on Saturday. Now, according to the country's civil protection agency, more than 1,290 people have died and more than 5,700 are injured. Of the 1,297 fatalities, 1,054 are in the South Administrative Region, 119 in Grand Asne, 122 in Naples, and 2 are in the Northwest Region, the Civil Protection Service reported on Sunday. This quake has destroyed 13,000 homes, damaged another 13,000, and what is basically has happened here is a disaster, a big disaster. When you have such a huge number of people dying, 1,297 people dying, you have another 5,000 people injured. You have very many more displaced. You have homes that have been destroyed, close to 14,000 homes destroyed, and another 14,000 homes damaged. This is huge. It's big. And you just ask yourself, oh my goodness, what is it? Saturday's earthquake was far less damaging than the one they experienced just 10 years ago in 2010. A UN reconnaissance mission to the affected areas found less significant damage than initially expected. The most urgent humanitarian needs are expected to be linked to the provision of medical assistance and water, sanitation, and hygiene, according to the UN. It's, you ask yourself, oh my goodness, what now?
No, even the one that happened 10 years ago, the country is still yet to recover completely from that. And while even trying to get on the back of this, then this happens. And if you just look at what's been happening in Haiti in terms of its government development, in terms of its wanting to be free, in terms of doing so much to actually try and catch up, the country has suffered. I mean, we had so many things that were going on, the World for Haiti, where you had musicians and celebrities coming together to raise money to be able to have,
to support
relief efforts and support relief efforts and things like that. And it didn't stop. It continued and continued. So already bearing the brunt of this huge disaster. And then just as you're thinking or hoping that they were going to then take some steps in that direction, whether it was from their governance or whether it was from a development point of view, boom, this happens. And basically shatters everything that had happened in the last 10 years. Literally puts it to the ground. Schools, infrastructure, everything that had been built, gone. So having to take a country in 2021 and all the gains that they had made over the last 10 years basically brought to nothing and then start all over again. In my mind, there's only so much
in the midst of poverty.
Take. And this is already in a country that is already suffering when it comes to poverty. Haiti is still in the LCDs, for example, still having major issues with even able to crawl onto the world map. How much more can you take? And then what needs to be done? What kinds of protections, what kinds of cooperation needs to happen for this country to be able to get on its feet? Why should this be happening? Look, there's nothing you can do about nature. Mother Nature in her own makes the decisions that she makes. But then there's also an infrastructure that is in place that helps you to be able to take the shock.
To take the shock.
Yeah.
And then quickly begin to recover.
Exactly.
And be able to deal with those that have been affected. Those that are injured, the 5,000 that are injured, are there health facilities that can actually take care of them? Those that have been left homeless by this, is there any sort of government that's in place to be able to address this? The president was just assassinated just the other day.
As if though that was not enough.
This is happening in the middle of now. There's a transition, country trying to come to terms with the fact that their president has been assassinated. There's a whole government that's coming in. This is just one of those. And they're still saying that they're likely to experience high winds and heavy rain from Tropical Storm Grace between today and tomorrow, according to meteorologists. This rain could lead to flooding and mudslides. Earthquake, then rain, floods, mudslides. It's one of those that you just, you look back and you don't know what to say.
I really don't know how they're going to be able to come out from this. Like you said, transitional government was, being set up to see how to deal with all of this. There are many, world powers speaking at the same time in terms of, all right, what needs to happen here as a former French colony, or even as maybe the French would like to have it, even a still present French colony. How far will their say go in making sure, or at least trying to establish some kind of governance in the country and get things moving along, So right now there's so many mouths in the conversation, but one thing that was sure, even before the assassination of the previous president, is that he was saying, look, it was time for unity and for stability. He was calling for continued international support for the government that had received billions in aid after that devastating earthquake in 2010. So the former president, Claude Joseph, had said that they were looking for inherent, or rather getting rid of a previous situation that had often led to political crisis, unprecedented poverty, galloping insecurity, morose and precarious economic situation. They were really trying to get out of this one. And it would seem as if in this case, nature was everything but for them, and here it is, a physical manifestation of pushing things so far back that you don't even understand how they're going to be able to get out of this. It would be great to have international cooperation to be able to put this country back. My problem is that oftentimes this international cooperation comes with strings.
Yeah. It comes to take advantage of the situation.
Yeah, we're going to come and help you put you back together like Humpty Dumpty. But you know what? We give you an arm here, but you just know that this arm belongs to us. And then we will be able to then, fiddle with what direction you go with.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we can help you. And I'm sure in the next coming days, you will hear things about support of transitional government. You will hear about, interim prime minister and this, that, the other thing, and how we want to support this individual. The undertones that you will also hear very loudly, even though not directly spoken, is that then all right. Moving forward, we will be the puppet master here. We will be the ones to pull the strings and see how this country will run.
Speaking of pulling strings, the strings have basically they've run out of string in Afghanistan. 20 years of what everybody else will call occupation, but the Americans will call something different, came to an end. Well, and now the Taliban are back in full force. Yesterday, we saw the scenes on international news of the Taliban troops basically just steamrolling into Kabul. The president having to flee and announcing that, I've fled so that I can protect the people of Kabul. And that's why I've fled. We have seen the statements by the US President Joe Biden saying, okay, so this is what's going to happen. We are going to withdraw our critical staff from Afghanistan. We're going to evacuate people who have worked with us. Even Afghanis who have been supportive of US efforts in their country will be given visas to come to America. And already many thousands have left Afghanistan to the US. More are leaving Afghanistan to the US over the next 2 weeks. This is according to Joe Biden. This is the effort that we're taking. Now, looking back at how the war started in Afghanistan when George W. Bush decided, let's go, and the occupation in Afghanistan and the NATO forces and all the work that they've done, trying to say, let's have Barack Obama coming in and saying, we're going to have a surge so that we can stabilize that country. And Barack Obama even disagreeing openly with the general who was in charge of security forces in Afghanistan and having to fire the general, remove the general from Afghanistan for lighter duties. And then this that we are seeing now with Biden saying, let's agree as NATO, we are basically withdrawing from Afghanistan. And now this, what does it speak of?
Well, the question, look, I think that we still see world domination as a thing, even till today, whether you want to look at it from the side of the United States or whether you want to look at it from the side of the Taliban, that obviously Afghanistan was where, or is an area where you see this playing out. I do not think that the United States was ready beyond saying that they were ready to deal with the situation that was Afghanistan at that time, 20 years ago. Because look at it today. What is it that has happened in Afghanistan that you will say was so earth-moving with the control of the United States that has changed things significantly for the Afghanistani people? The control of Afghanistan by the Taliban at that time, which was seen to be treacherous and terrorist in nature, has anything changed today? Today, now 2021.
As we
Can
speak
you
today,
say that people are in a better position?
The Taliban are in
terms
charge.
of they're back in charge. Has anything changed? Beyond saying that the US was in charge over the 20 years, what changed in that time period?
What has changed is presidents. There are 4 presidents: Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden. Each of them coming up with a plan of what to do with Afghanistan. Trump, in his term, saying, all right, so we need to get out of Afghanistan. He calls the Taliban for negotiations. Camp David and says, okay, so you guys come. And then the main factions who are in government in Afghanistan are left out. And there's a whole conversation about it. Biden comes and says, you see what? My predecessor signed a peace deal with the Taliban. Now, I am not going to start having a conversation about reversing that deal and all, because that means committing more and more of American troops and resources to this.
Which I am not ready to do.
Yes, and it will not end with my presidency. That means I'll have to hand it over to somebody else. I am not willing to hand it over to another president to take over this issue. It needs to come to an end. So saizi, wachana now, wajisort. Americans come out, our friends who've been supporting us over this time, will come and give them a safe haven.
So can we say that even this interim this interim overseership of the United States was just to keep the Taliban at bay? There was nothing else. There was nothing else that happened in Afghanistan that you can say was life-changing. It was just to keep the Taliban away, but guess what? Now they're back. Peace deal to stop the fighting between the Afghanistani government, quote unquote, and I use that term loosely, Afghanistan government, and the rebels, in this case, the Taliban. So what happened was that over the last 20 years, you didn't see that kind of fighting. There was essentially peace, volatile as it was, if you can use that term. There was peace. So now basically what you've done is that you've removed the situation of peace, and then that has ended. For me, I say that if you're going to have transition, whatever the case may be, transition should move the status quo of a particular situation one step higher in terms of it being better. That, are you seeing that, okay, during this transitionary period, have we seen that it has become better for the Afghanis? Has it been that there has been a system of leadership governance that has guaranteed that come what may, you will either have the power of the people being reinstituted or at least known to a certain extent? Will you say that the economy has improved because of 1, 2, 3 directives? But no, I think what you see now is that, exactly as you said, there has been a public washing of the hands of Afghanistan and its people and say, okay, go back to where you were before and we'll have to go because clearly we cannot do this anymore.
And no, for a long time, during the push to go to Afghanistan, you could see the background of it. America has just been attacked, 9/11.
Yeah.
Al-Qaeda has claimed responsibility, Osama bin Laden. And it's known that Osama and his main people are in Afghanistan. And they're being shielded by the Taliban. So let's go there and destabilize the Taliban so that we can then also destabilize Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden. War starts. For many years, they're not able to even get to know where Osama bin Laden is. War starts. Many American troops are killed. War continues. Osama is killed. More war continues. And there's no stability in sight. Trying to set up a fractious government. Okay, so let's have elections. Or do the leaders agree? In fact, you insult them by calling them tribal leaders. These are tribal leaders. The tribal leaders need to come and say, look, this is a community that has had its own government and governance system for a very long time.
So, was then the invasion of Afghanistan because there was a real concern for how the people were being governed and ruled, and that the threat of terrorism was really quite something that they wanted to keep under control? Or was it payback for 9/11?
You'll get different arguments, I think. There are those that will say that because we know that the Al-Qaeda has a safe operating base in Afghanistan, and we have seen the work it's done, it's been able to export its brand of terrorism globally, it has even brought it to America. What we need to do is deal with Al-Qaeda where it is. Go to Afghanistan and deal with Al-Qaeda. There's that justification. So it's not about, do the people of Afghanistan deserve a different government? At that point is, this regime, led by the Taliban, is giving a safe haven to Al-Qaeda, global terrorists. And we need to go and get rid of Al-Qaeda. And to get rid of Al-Qaeda,
we must get into Afghanistan.
And we must destroy those who are protecting them. So go and fight the Taliban and destabilize Al-Qaeda.
So it had nothing
and
to
then after that, now the whole issue of, so now that you've removed these guys who have been controlling the country, you need to bring in other people who are not aligned to their way of thinking and install them as leaders. Has it worked? Attempt number 1, number 2, number 3, bring in peace. The Taliban regroup, they still are able to access a lot of resources. You say, okay, so what they're doing is they're using opium and they're using the drug trade to make more money and to be able to finance themselves. Let's try and cut that out. You're not able to. It's been 20 years of one thing or the other. Hundreds of thousands of troops on the ground. And still they get to this point.
Nothing.
I think it's a big conversation that can be had. Now we are at a point where the presidents are trying to blame each other. Biden is saying, you know what, it's been a long time, but my predecessor called those guys the terrorists, and he was invited them to come, David, in America, to come and have a negotiation. And he has even promised that he's going to pull out American troops. So now that he did that, I need to just continue with that. Trump, on the other side, is releasing a statement saying Biden has failed. If you see what's happening in Afghanistan, this is because of failure by Biden. And now the whole conversation has shifted from what exactly happened in Afghanistan to those two. It's about the Democrats and the Republicans fighting again.
Meanwhile, an entire country is being handed over to a group, or rather a group has taken over control of a country whereby there are innocent lives that will continue to be lost on a daily basis, and that there is no development agenda beyond what this individual group will say or do. That's it.
I think maybe they should just let it be. All right. The Taliban has spoken and said, they want peace. They're pursuing peace. They just want to pacify the country. They want to see that there is no forceful, takeover of any city. They have, even that time before they moved into Kabul, they said, what we are not going to do is we are not going to take over this city forcefully. We are going to take time to allow for conversations and negotiations. The president flees, they move in. No violence. There'll be pockets of what I'm calling Western reports that, when they took over a certain city, they promised no violence, and then now they started threatening people. There's no violence. You're talking still about threats. Let the Taliban take over that country and whoever else. Let them have conversations with whoever. Let's see, do they actually mean to develop that country? If they do, they do. If they don't, then it becomes clear. But the continual branding of the people as because their name is Taliban, then therefore it means that everything that they do
is terrorist.
It's terrorism.
But that's what it has been over this time, that when you do hear, look, and it could be there's a lot of propaganda that has been, there's a lot of communication that has come out because the receiving end of anything that they have said or done has often been the United States. And so there has been a lot of branding that has come out. And so then the first time or the first thing that that comes to your mind when you hear the Taliban is that this is a terrorist group, a terrorist organization, and they don't have any thought except to brandish their form of terrorism on the world. That's it.
Yep.
You don't think about anything else. Never would you think that the Taliban would be interested in development of roads and infrastructure, some of the things that they've talked about, that they would be interested in peace, that they would be interested in taking Afghanistan to a place of peace and development. Never. Never. Because what do you hear? That the Taliban is taking over in Kabul and the president flees.
Yep.
So it's fear. It's fear that is coming. It's fear that is the issue. But what is the case? Is it possible that they would want to come in and institute a kind of government that was insistent on peace, that was insistent on development, and to shy away from the things that it had been previously known for? Is it possible? When you hear the name, you hear something totally different.
It is. I think it's possible. It's possible. If 20 years of preaching a contra narrative did not resonate with the people, the areas that the Taliban has taken control is because they were welcomed by the people. If there was a counter narrative that resonated with the people, that this is evil, the people would have resisted. We're not hearing very many stories of, forceful takeover of this vast region that the Taliban has taken over.
No.
They've gotten support, local support. It tells you something, that there's something that the people feel they connect with more than these other people, these other forces.
I can only draw
they consider them
parallels.
the occupying forces.
Yeah, I can only draw parallels with Libya. Again, when we looked at, Muammar al-Gaddafi being called this terrible man, and that there was very little that he did or contributed towards good governance and peace. But the people of Libya loved the man in terms of what he was able to do or what he was able to insist upon for his country. That you would find that Libya, that produces some of the smoothest crude in the world, was insistent on inward and internal policies before they even thought about their crude and the profits of their crude going outside. That making sure that the infrastructure in the country was sound. It is only when you saw the invasion of foreigners that things started to fall apart in Libya. Call it whatever you want to call it. But the truth of the matter is that at that point in time, the Libyans believed that the best option that they had was Gaddafi. Making sure that education was free until 18. The same things that you would find in the Western Hemisphere were residents in Libya. That people who were on the lower rung of the economic strata were still able to afford life. Again, with some of the best medical policies on the continent, some of the best education policies on the continent as well. And many would argue some of the best infrastructure on this side of the world.
Yep.
But brandished a man that
you would never get all those news.
In nature.
All those stories of what was happening, actually, we would never get them.
No.
It's just how much, of a dictator, how much of a strong man.
Because he refused the control of the resources that belonged to the country to go into the hands of somebody else. How many people have the kind of resolve to do something like that? Here, you can only see a different kind of narrative being spun in Afghanistan now. And is it possible that the Taliban could actually deliver?
They could represent change. The change that hasn't been felt in 20 years of American troops on the ground, maybe it could come with these guys. Speaking of change, Zambia.
So, the incumbent will now
be the predecessor.
Yes.
The incumbent will now be passed.
Hichilema now is president-elect of Zambia. It was interesting because he had conversations a few days before the vote count was completed. And Zambia now will have a new president. Again, another country that has been wrought with, failing economy, things out of the window, not being able to keep up with international loans, part of their national infrastructure going into the hands of their lenders and things like that. The presidential and parliamentary election was not free and fair after incidents of violence happened in 3 provinces. And this is according to Edgar Lungu. He was trailing after early results. He said the Patriotic Front Party that he leads was consulting on its next course of action Of course. The results from 31 of the country's 156 constituencies from Thursday's vote put businessman Hakainde Hichilema, who has criticized the president's management of an economy in turmoil ahead of Lungu, and he was running for a second 5-year term as well. So constituencies include perceived Lungu strongholds, suggesting Hichilema has gained ground since the last election in 2016, where he lost by a slim margin in a vote marred by allegations of rigging. So it would seem as if even where Lungu was strong, the people of Zambia have said, no, what? Enough is enough. The Europeans Election Observer Mission released a preliminary report in the capital of Lusaka, describing the process as technically well managed, but marred by unequal campaign conditions, restrictions on freedoms of assembly and movement, and abuse of incumbency. So it would seem as if Hichilema has taken a significant lead. The vote count.
He's been declared
winner.
He's
been declared as the winner.
Yeah,
and,
by the Electoral Commission.
Yes, so Lungu will, after this power stint, go home.
The 7th president of Zambia, Hakainde Hichilema. He's been declared winner, yes. He won with 2,810,757 votes. And everybody's wondering, wait, how many voters are there in Zambia?
How many voters are there in Zambia in the first place?
If the winning candidate has 2.8 million votes, how many candidates are there? How many voters are there in Zambia? Well, yes, Zambia has decided that that's the new president, Hakainde Hichilema. He takes over from Edgar Lungu. He's the president-elect. He's going to be taking over from Edgar Lungu. And people are also looking back at and saying, this appears to be going a very nice and peaceful way. It's like there's going to be a peaceful transition. Edgar Lungu has, not yet come out to say, all right, I accept the result. But his supporters, everybody seems to be like, all right, we agree that this is how the result has gone. This is how the vote has gone. And the result that has been declared by the Electoral Commission, it's it.
Yep.
2,810,757. That's a number that matters to one Hakainde Hichilema, who is the president-elect of Zambia. What number matters to you? And the numbers that matter to you are also numbers that matter to NCBA Bank, because NCBA Bank asks you, whatever numbers matter to you, just talk to them. They'll see to it that you get the numbers that matter. It's not about how much you are going to invest, how much you're going to borrow. It's the impact of the money that you borrow from NCBA Bank, what you do with it, and the impact it brings to your life or your business, because they've got all these products. They've got business products. They've got personal products. They can talk to you about personal finance. All of this, talking to NCBA Bank, go for it. In the next hour, we bring the conversation back to police and police reforms. The Constitution talked about police reforms. The Constitution established the National Police Service Commission as an independent organ. The Constitution also established the Independent Policing Oversight Authority as an independent organ. The NPSC also set up the Internal Affairs Unit within the police, so that in the event there are issues and concerns about how the police are doing their job, then there are very many ways of finding out the truth and bringing justice. However, the people of Kenjakama in Embu haven't found justice. That's what we'll be asking ourselves. Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. The One Kenya Alliance leaders are today expected to meet in Naivasha to make a decision on who among them will fly the coalition's flag in next year's general elections, according to ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi. Today's meeting will see the 8-member panel selected to come up with Oka's strategy submit its report. Among the issues to be discussed is who will be the presidential candidate in 2022, especially where Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka and ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi have maintained that they are the best candidates. Devolution CS Junior Mala has said the misunderstandings in Ford Kenya, the cause of poor performance in Trans Nzoia County and Bungoma County, whose governors were elected through the party. He says time has come for the governors to be held accountable.
Kuna wale mmewapa nafasi hiyo miaka 10 walete maendeleo hapa, wameshindwa na hiyo kazi. Wanaanza kupigana wenyewe kwa wenyewe. Kule Bungoma wamerudi kupigana wao na gavana wao, hata bajeti haijapitishwa Bungoma. Wamerudi wanapigana wenyewe na watu wa Bungoma wanaumia. Hapa Kitale pia najua shida imekuwa kubwa sana. Gavana ni wao na vita kati yao na gavana, maendeleo haionekani hapa.
He added that the health sector in the said counties continue to worsen, that the police are forced to use their vehicles to transport patients to hospital for treatment.
Pesa yenu mabilioni inayokuja inapokelewa na serikali ya Ford Kenya. Nimesikia pia kina mama walikuja hapo wakapata shida, wakaenda kwa Anderson, hiyo ambulance haikuwa, wanaenda kuomba polisi gari. Hiyo ni kweli? Munapelekwa kwa gari ya polisi, kwani nyinyi mahabusu? Kwani ni hatia gani mlionayo nyinyi watu wanapeka? Sisi tumesema wacha polisi wafanye kazi yao.
Only 2,110 new voters in Kwale County have registered to vote next year. Statistics from IEBC shows that only 27% turned out in the to be registered since the 2017 general election. The IEBC aims to register a total of 8,000 new voters in Kwale County. In a statement, the branch superintendent of elections, Nelly Longo, however, said the IEBC had put in place strategies to ensure it registers more Kenyans by December this year. A group of bikers rode through Mombasa Road to Kitengela police station in demand of justice for 4 comrades who were murdered in the area. They rode in honor of the brothers and cousins who were killed last week on suspicion of being livestock thieves. The 2 brothers, Fred Murithi and Victor Mwangi, and their friends Mike George and Nicholas Musa, had converged to celebrate Mwangi's birthday when the tragic incident occurred. Now, Haiti's hospital was swamped by thousands of injured residents after a devastating earthquake killed at least 1,297 people, as authorities raced to bring doctors to the worst hit areas before a major storm hits. The 7.2 magnitude quake on Saturday destroyed thousands of homes and buildings in a Caribbean nation which is still clawing its way back from another major trembler 11 years ago and is reeling from the assassination of its president last month. Southwestern Haiti bore the brunt of the blow, especially in the region in and around the town of Lekai. This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
I'm sure we still do have traffic on Mombasa Road this morning. I see we're coming out of the area right around the SGR. And unfortunately, it doesn't really look good. Sabaki to Mlolongo past the Way Bridge. Use about an hour is what we're told now. An hour for a 10-minute, usually 10-minute or less. It doesn't look good on Mombasa Road today. You can use the ICD route that will lead you to the Southern Bypass. That also, from all reports this morning, is quite heavy and people are already stuck. So this one, we really have to think about it before we get on the roads today. Yes, I know a lot of saying, I wish we had an earlier, plans that this was going to happen. I know, but this is what we have to deal with right now. Uhuru Highway from UON to CBD is inbound, moving very slowly this morning. Also, we are seeing that the situation on Thika Road is quite hot and heavy, getting to the connection between the Muthui Square and Pangani Underpass. So let's keep at it, guys. We'll keep looking at it. Alternate routes is what we're looking for today. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people. Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
After 8, a very good morning to you wherever you're tuned in. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. In the room this morning is Eric Latif and Nduoko. Our friend C.T. Muga is away. He'll be back tomorrow, God willing. So, the conversation continues nonetheless. The day's proverb, having a good conversation is like having riches. Having a good conversation is like having riches. Just going by that, the fact that we have 4 hours of conversations each and every weekday morning makes Nduoko a billionaire.
Yes, say it again.
Mkubwa. You know, now when you become a billionaire, you just become mkubwa.
I become mkubwa.
Yes.
Ndu out the window.
Madam. Unajua watoto wanarudi shule. Welcome to our audience on KTN Home. You're with us for now until the top of the hour. In addition to everybody else who's tuned in on SpiceFM around the country or SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, on all over the world, and www.spicefm.co.ke. We want to talk about the police service, which was transformed from the police force but into the Constitution. It wasn't that just, people that, no. The Constitution basically transformed this and called it the police service and established various institutions and said we're going to have police reforms. And among the first things that we want to do is establish the National Police Service Commission so that the work of the police is managed under one proper commission. And the first order of business when the commission comes into being is to review all police officers who are working in the police service and weed out the bad apples. And then we shall be left with good officers who will now be called the Kenya Police Service. And those will be the ones who are implementing the reforms that we're talking about. How many years later? We're where we are. We still have conversations about police. Are police doing a good job? Do people have higher trust in police today than they did 11 years ago? What's happening? To join us in that conversation is Peter Kiama. He's the Executive Director of the Independent Medical Legal Unit. Peter, very good morning and welcome to the Situation Room.
Good morning to you and thanks for having me.
We call that seat on the other side the hot seat.
Yes.
But this morning we've moved it to you.
Okay.
So that, we warm it up a little bit and we have this warm conversation.
All right.
As we start here, what is the Independent Medical Legal Unit? What do you do?
The Independent Medical Legal Unit is an NGO started in this country in 1993 at a time when the country was facing very undemocratic governance processes and practices and a lot of repression. And so the institution was a response to state repression in the early 90s by volunteers who came up and said, enough is enough. We need to respond. We need to work with victims. We need to raise the voice of victims and families at that time. And since then, we have focused on prevention and response to torture and other forms of ill treatment, including violence by state institutions like the police. So we do support victims through medical treatment, through forensic medical investigations, carrying out post-mortem examinations of people who have died in custody, people who have been executed, people who have suffered enforced disappearances. We investigate that, and if their bodies are found, we help to document the evidence. We also provide psychosocial support to victims of torture and other forms of violence, as well as legal support. We go to court for compensation, but we also do criminal defense of victims of police violence who are then again charged wrongfully. So we defend them when we find that they've been wrongfully charged. In addition to that, we have invested a lot in the last 10 years since we got the Constitution of Kenya 2010 in supporting reforms within the National Police Service. We have trained hundreds of police officers across the country, at county level, at police station level, at national level as well, at command level. We have also worked very closely with the National Police Service in implementing community policing, because the foundation of the new National Police Service, as envisaged in the Constitution, was community policing. That was supposed to be the game changer. That each and every police station, the over 1,400 police stations across the country, should have a functioning community policing unit, mainly populated by citizens in their own locality, together with members of the national government administration, as well as police officers.
Okay, so Peter, how was that envisioned to work out? Because, I mean, we hear it a lot. It sounds very hoity-toity that there's community policing, and it sounds nice. How was it envisioned to work? That we would say that there would be a community policing unit that was, made up of citizens, people from the community. What is it supposed to do? That I would go to Peter in my neighborhood and say, look, this and this is what is going on. And then Peter then is tasked with the responsibility to take it to the police? Or that we actually have a human sitting in a police post saying that, you know what, these are my reports, then deal with it. How exactly was that supposed to work?
It was very simple. The Constitution gives that responsibility of establishing community policing committees as well as practices to the Inspector General of Police. So the buck stops at the IG's office, where the Inspector General is supposed to provide guidelines and then provide a budget for every police station across the country. Every ward commander, formerly called OCS, is supposed to have a budget to implement community policing. That is where the responsibility lies. So the Inspector General has already issued the guidelines in 2017. The guidelines are there. However, majority of police stations do not have community policing committee, functioning community policing committees. And so there is a failure at that level, at the IG's office, the failure to ensure that each and every police station commander has established a functional community policing unit. That community policing unit is supposed to comprise of, women, youth, and I underline youth, because youth are, at the receiving end of police violence. And so the community policing was supposed to bring youth closer to the police, supposed to bring women closer to the police, was supposed to bring business people, borders, market traders, religious people, all manner of, all shades of opinion was supposed to be represented within the community policing committee. And together, the community policing committee is not the command structure. The community policing committee is supposed to be the place for dialogue between the police and the community, identifying their safety and security challenges and looking for creative and innovative solutions. And therefore, each and every community policing committee is supposed to operate in their own manner using the guidelines based on their security and safety challenges in the locality. That was the way it's supposed to be. So it was a place for dialogue. And we still believe that that's the future of the National Police Service if we want a service, not a force.
Is this anchored in law? Is it a policy? Or is it just a wish of the National Police Service Commission?
It's not a wish. It's not a privilege. It's not an option. It is mandated by the Constitution. It's a constitutional responsibility. Article 244E of the National Police Service obligates the Inspector General to lead the service, to foster relationships with the wider society. And how does he or she do that? The Inspector General is supposed to do that by establishing those functional community policing committees in each police station, and also community policing forums at patrol base or lower levels of the police structure. So at every level, there's supposed to be a committee or a forum that helps the police to engage with the community.
And how does that relate?
And in addition to that, then provide a budget every year. Unfortunately, there's literally no money that goes to the police station that's supposed to help in funding community policing work. We have a budget every year of 16 million Kenya shillings for over 1,000 police stations across the country. Not a single cent.
16 million per station.
To police stations.
16 million shillings per station, or
per
16
year,
million shillings for all the stations in the country?
For all the stations across the country.
Wait,
for all the stations.
16 million in total or 16 million per station?
In total, in the national police budget. And that's a tragedy. You
only
begin to
16 million shillings
Only.
to fund
Only.
1,400 police stations.
Yeah. And if you trace that back to the police stations, you won't find it.
What is it supposed to do?
So the problem begins there.
Yeah.
That you need adequate funding. If you have to transform the National Police Service from a force to a service, then you have to fund that process. You need to fund it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even as we recognize that the police budget has increased over the years in the last 10 years, and that there are results that can be seen in terms of better equipment. You know, you see there are more police vehicles available for patrol and other duties.
That's true.
And that's a plus. Mm-hmm. But that is not commensurate when it comes to community policing. The soft, what we call the soft side of policing.
Mm.
So in terms of equipment, tools, kitting, you find we have invested a lot in that, and that's a plus. We don't begrudge the police for that.
Sure.
But we need to deal with the soft side of reforms.
Okay.
The attitudes, the relationships, you know, the problem-solving skills of police officers. That if a police officer goes to a particular situation like you saw in Embu the other day, you do not go there where there's a procession, people are angry, and you escalate the situation. The legal requirement, the constitutional requirement, the requirement under the police service standing orders is you de-escalate the situation. You use your problem-solving skills to de-escalate the situation. You don't add more fire to already, a very, a very tense situation.
Environment.
Yeah.
But I'm a bit confused here between the community policing initiative and the Nyumba Kumi initiative. Are we speaking of the same thing, or are we speaking of two different things?
Initially, there was a problem. There was confusion. In that, remember Nyumba Kumi came out of Westgate.
Yeah.
You know,
yes.
It was a presidential pronouncement,
right,
with no legal basis and no policy basis. It was a good initiative. But then when it came in, it found community policing already embedded in the law and in the Constitution. So instead of using the law that was already there to ensure that we establish those committees on the ground, then we ended up having two parallel systems, one being implemented under the Inspector General and one being implemented under the Office of the President through the National Government Administration. However, we need to give credit to the immediate former Inspector General of Police, Mr. Boynet, because he proceeded to provide guidelines, in the first edition of Community Policing Guidelines 2016, and again revised under the current Inspector General, where now we have community policing and Nyumba Kumi integrated into one.
Okay.
Into one under the same ministry, but led by the Inspector General, where you have National Government Administration at the police station, for example. You have a civilian being the chairperson of the community policing unit, deputized by the officer commanding the station, and then you have the ACC, or the former DO, being the organizing secretary, because they coordinate national government functions.
Yep.
And security is a national government function. So now you have community policing being the overall, but Nyumba Kumi being the miguu, or the feet of community policing. It is the basic unit of community policing. So without Nyumba Kumi, there's no community policing.
Okay.
Because Nyumba Kumi is the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So many neighborhoods come together under one police station and under the community policing committee.
Okay.
So that has been harmonized now. But still, there's no budget for it.
The reason I'm heading that direction is because, yes, we know that there are Nyumba Kumi heads.
Yeah.
Go in any part of the country, you'll be told, this is the Mzee of Nyumba Kumi. Yeah. And it's clear.
Over 300,000 units.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then also, you'll hear that there's a chief. And this is the chief. Previously, the chief used to command his own police under the AP.
Yeah.
Now we have all harmonized under one police boss at the local police station. So we have, I'm finding like we have very many people that we report to, and I don't know what the structure is. When people are complaining and they call them Mzee of Nyumba Kumi, who does the Mzee of Nyumba Kumi escalate to? Is it the chief? Is it that community policing chairperson? Is it the OCS? Where do they go?
Now, under the current community policing booklet, the guidelines, the wazee under Nyumba Kumi or anybody else is now supposed to be directly linked to the officer commanding the station, the ward commander. Because in 2018, the president issued a new policy guideline on command structure. Before, there was a lot of confusion. You had the administration of police commander at the station level. You had the Kenya Police Service commander at the level. You had DCI commander. But that was harmonized in 2018 September. So now we have one command at each level.
Okay.
So if the mzee has a case to report, the mzee can go through the local chief or can go directly to the station. The community policing committee is supposed to be to build trust and confidence that if I report, they won't tell on me, and action will be taken. Because if I am for example, I am a member of a committee of Nyumba Kumi in my neighborhood, okay, but that is under the community policing committee in the local police station, so that my assistant chief convenes our small committee comprised of about 5 clusters. And if there's information we give to the assistant chief, who goes directly to the OCS, to the commander of the station, to give these reports. For example, we've had a case earlier this year where there were pickpocketing around the street where I reside, and we did pass the information over to the assistant chief, who went to the OCS to request. The request we made was increase patrols, and the patrols were increased, and we saw a change.
So you're saying
that's the way it's supposed to work.
So you're saying that this can it can actually work, and so we have cooperation between communities and police. Do you think, I mean, in the cases that we've seen, in this really tragic issue that we saw over the last, couple of weeks, where these two boys, who in my opinion needn't have died, and they did. We've not been given reasons or explanations as to what happened in that situation. We actually did try to reach out to Internal Affairs, and they told us that as the investigations are going on, hand in hand with IPOA and such, then they will be able to give a report to the public tomorrow, Tuesday. Now, before that happens, there's a lot of speculation, but unfortunately, what we've seen is that there's been a slap on the wrist with the transfer of certain individuals from the police force. Do you think if the cooperation that you've just been speaking about was happening and escalated, that we would have been able to, even in whatever ways, avert the situation, or at least give or have explanations today as to what happened?
I can give maybe 3 levels of response to your question. One is in the first instance, we shouldn't be having anybody dying from police action, especially if it's related to COVID-19. The fact that I am outside my house, outside curfew hours, should not lead to automatic death like we are seeing. We have documented too many cases since March last year of people being killed by the police because of violating curfew regulations. We should actually be very ashamed as a country that by taking action to prevent deaths, we are actually killing each other. It's a contradiction in terms. Remember, this is a health pandemic. We are not addressing terrorism here. We are not addressing armed criminal activity. And therefore, the measures that we put in place should be commensurate to the crime, if there's any crime committed in that particular case. And so the 2 boys who died in Embu, and many others that we have documented, some we have already gone to court to seek damages for that, should not have happened. So that is the first instance. Number 2, through community policing. You know what community policing is supposed to do? Is to educate citizens on the need to take responsibility for their own actions. and to be prepared to face the consequences of their own actions. So it is to enhance, as we say, the police are the people, and the people are the police. The only difference is that the police are employed, they have a pay slip, and they are in uniform. All of us have a responsibility in policing, and that's the principle of community policing. So we would avoid a lot of violence, a lot of abuse by the police, or even the police suffering violence from citizens, if we embraced community policing and funded it as the key driver of transforming the force into a service.
You speaking from this position, and I'm going to ask a question that may sound quite silly, but those who were in this same position as civil society groups and others who've said, okay, community policing constitutionally embedded, did they realize that funding needs to happen? Did they realize a little bit more attention needs to then be paid to this structure? Do they know this?
I remember what we did in 2010. We set up constitutional principles on transforming our force into a service. But we didn't stop there. We went ahead and gave ourselves a new law to guide the implementation of those constitutional principles.
Yep.
We give ourselves the National Police Service Act 2011. In that act, if you go to Section 41, you realize that we actually established a counter-policing authority to bring together all actors to guide safety and security issues, not as a command structure, because the command is with the police. We also, under Section 96 to 100 of the National Police Service, clearly stipulated how to establish community policing committees and how to fund them. It is there in the Police Service Act that those structures must be funded for them to function. So it's clear. There's no confusion. There's no ambiguity about it. That the transformation of the National Police Service was supposed to be adequately funded, including community policing. However, we have a problem. And before I go to the problem, I would like to just mention, because it's good to acknowledge, where things have gone well. We have partnered with the National Police Service under the Office of the Inspector General and the Directorate of Police Reforms to establish 13 community policing committees or structures in 4 counties. And we have continued to monitor these 13 police stations during COVID-19. And not a single one of them have we received a case of police violence in implementing COVID-19. We've seen a good number of the committees working closely with the uniformed officers and with the national government administration to encourage the people to adhere to the regulations on COVID-19 for their own benefit. Not because the police have said so, not because the police have come to them with guns or batons or tear gas. It's because they find a benefit in adhering to those regulations for their own health and therefore for their own safety.
So when implemented, it works.
It works beautifully. I'll tell you, and that is the future of the National Police Service. However, some of these efforts, even in other police stations, where officers have out of their own initiative established these structures, there's a problem. And the problem is the criminality within the National Police Service.
Criminality within the National Police Service.
Every time we move 2 steps forward, we move maybe 5 steps backward because of the criminality within the system. And the fact that there's no political will to deal with the criminality within the National Police Service.
That is something that you need to explain in greater detail, Kema.
I'll explain, and I'm explaining.
So let's take this break at 8:30, and then when you come out of the break, Peter Kema will explain to us what is this that he means by criminality within the police service. Peter Kema is the Executive Director of the Independent Medical Legal Unit. We are talking about police reforms, the wins and gains, and where the problems are, because we still have situations in the country where police are being accused of extrajudicial killings. People are dying in the hands of police. We don't seem to find justice fast enough for those that have died. Why are we where we are? We are live on KTN Home, we are live on SpiceFM, and we are live online. 8:30, let's take a break. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
He's full of character, wit, and sense of humor is sure to make you not get enough.
Ati ukienda mahali unapelekwa out sijui na kulanga lasagna na ujui kuisoma. Imeandikwa kwa menu, nipatie lasagna.
Join MC Jesse as he sits down with his guests for a thrilling, memorable, and insightful conversation. Watch Jesse Junction every Sunday from 4 p.m.
Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources? Yet we have real challenges in this country.
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Okay, a drizzle in parts of Nairobi at 15, highs of 20 and lows of 14 today. At 13 degrees, Nyeri is also raining, highs of 19. 24 will be the high in a cloudy Nakuru, currently at 15, and mostly cloudy. Conditions at 15 in Eldoret, highs of 23. 27 will be the high in Kisumu, where it's sunny at 20. 21 and sunny in Kakamega, highs of 27 and lows of 13. Light rain at 24 in Mombasa with highs of 28. 28 will also be the high in Malindi, where it's raining at 25. Looking at mostly sunny conditions at 21 in Kampala, and highs of 29 in Dar es Salaam, where it's also raining at 25. Sunny conditions in Johannesburg, still at 7 degrees, however, highs of 19. Partly cloudy conditions at 25 now in Lagos, with highs of 29 and lows of 24. And it's now raining in Kinshasa at 24, with highs of 31 and lows of 23.
Spice up your life.
All right, doesn't look good, guys, on Mombasa Road today at all. We're looking at Mlolongo, between actually further down, Signature Mall, all the way through to the Way Bridge at Mlolongo, and then out towards the SGR. It is not pretty at all. Bumper to bumper traffic. Most of the road is not there. We're only looking at one lane now, outbound. The ICD route has been offered up as an option today, but that also is jam-packed getting to the southern bypass. We're going to have to sit on this one for some time, but it doesn't look good at all. If you're headed in the direction of Mombasa Road, also inbound from the city, it's quite tight, especially as you get to the Maradaima section through to Cabanas and then out towards the SGR situation. It's thumping this morning, does not look good. We keep talking about this, guys. Let us know if you find an alternative. Coming off of Thika Road as well is quite tight between Survey all the way through to Muthui. Also quite heavy on Langata Road. All of the traffic coming off the southern bypass and spilling on to Langata Road this morning. So it's that Manic Monday that we hoped to have avoided, but it doesn't look like we are going to, at least not for a couple of days. Talk to us if you find an alternative. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
Kenya's biggest
Nairobi.
conversation. It continues. In the room with you is Eric Latif, Nduoko, and Peter Kiama, the Executive Director of the Independent Medical Legal Unit, IMLU. We are talking about police reforms. We're just looking at all manner of mediocrity. So there's mediocrity on the roads. The people who are in charge of Mombasa Road, having seen what happened on Friday and having done nothing, it's happening on Monday morning. And somebody is sitting somewhere sipping tea and mandazi and asking, ati kunaendelea aje huko barabara? And they are employed by the government of Kenya. The dead cannot cry out for justice. It's a duty of the living to do so for them. We are living. We're crying out for justice. The Kanjakama brothers, the Kitengela Four, and very many other people who've died in the hands of security forces, people who are in charge of protecting them, and yet they've died. As we're going to the break, you said our biggest challenge is what you called criminality within the police service. What is that, Peter?
You see, there has been a very contentious issue in this country between government and civil society, including a group that I belong to that has been championing police reforms, a group called the Police Reforms Working Group of about 19 to 20 organizations that have come together to support the Office of the Inspector General and the Ministry of Interior to ensure that we implement the police reforms that are required under the Constitution and the law. And we've done well so far, But the challenge, so the contention is it a case of a few rogue officers, a few rotten apples, or is it a case of a rotten system? And I would like to say this. I'd like to go back to the police vetting process that we had initiated earlier in a bid to establish the foundation for policing reform in this country. That particular vetting exercise was supposed to be a transitional measure of cleaning up the National Police Service and establishing mechanisms to turn around the institution. Unfortunately, the first commission, the National Police Service Commission, totally failed this country. It was actually a disgrace. They mismanaged that vetting exercise to a point where the exercise did not bear any fruit, as was expected.
What do you mean did not bear any fruit?
Any fruit.
Kema, there were police officers who were kicked out of the service. Later they went to court, yes. It was public vetting and there were public reports. What fruits did it not bear?
In a good number of cases, Eric, in majority of cases actually, police officers who were supposed to leave the service were retained. Most of them were retained. It is on record that we actually did not even complete. Majority of the officers were never vetted. Remember that?
Yeah.
We went to a particular point, and the National Police Service Commission at that point abdicated a national duty. They vetted all the way up to, I think, when they reached the traffic department, they chickened out.
It became too hot.
When they saw the rot that was in the service, they chickened out.
What reasons did they give?
They never even did a handing over report that was comprehensive enough to identify for the next lot of commissioners what they were supposed to do. And what has happened to the new lot of commissioners? When we came to the BBI amendments, remember, there were provisions to dilute the powers of the Inspector General and to increase the control of the CS Interior, whoever that can be at any particular time, to have a stranglehold on the National Police Service, something that we had gone to Bombers in 2002 to secure the independence and professionalism of the National Police Service. None other than the chairperson of the National Police Service Commission supported those amendments, which included doing away with the National Police Service Commission.
Why?
And establishing a national security, a national council chaired by the CS Interior that was supposed to take control of the National Police Service.
Why? Why refuse?
Now, why would you, as a commissioner, in a constitutional commission, actually preside over your own funeral by supporting, a constitutional amendment that does away with a constitutional commission? So you can see the contradictions therein. Now, as this happens, all of us are watching. The rank and file of the police service are watching and asking, so if a commission that was supposed to help us to professionalize our service is actually saying you can do away with us. We are not needed. Those are commissioners saying that. It was quite embarrassing, and it's on record. So I'm not, bad-mouthing anybody here. Now, the criminality that is in... So there has been those contentions. So the criminality that I'm talking about here is this. That it's not a case of a few rotten apples. It is a case, as somebody said last week, of a rogue system. Why do I say so? I say so because, as you all know, and every Kenyan who is listening to me this morning and needs to listen very, very keenly here, we encounter good cops every day. That's a given.
Yep.
And I know very professional constables and inspectors and sergeants and senior commanders. Very professional, very dedicated. But because the system allows a good number of them to get involve themselves in criminal activities, that is scaring away the good ones that are there. And they are there. So the system allows the development and the existence of criminal elements within the National Police Service. Now, when you see Kejokoma in Embu and two young men lose their lives, and then people demonstrate, and another one is killed, and two are recovering in hospital with serious gunshot injuries, that is not an isolated case. I'll give you another example. In around May, April this year, a police officer goes in one of the localities in Kajiado, kidnaps 3 young men, bludgeoned them sort of to death. The intention was to kill them. 2 survive, 1 dies. Right? You go to the operations going on in the North Rift, in Kapedo and other places. You have an operation that is declared an operation zone, so nobody can go in. Aircraft cannot go in. No media can go in. No vehicles are moving in or out. So it is under total control of the security agencies. 2 vehicles drive in, pick 6, 7 Kenyans, drive them away into the bush, broad daylight, torture them, then each 1 bullet to the head, dead. And nobody has answered for that in a security operation zone that nobody else can operate except those in charge of that security operation zone. Up to today, that matter has not been investigated. The families have been scared to death. They can't even come forward to any NGO or anybody to report for proper investigations. Those who try to assist, a good number of them, their bodies are found in the forest, different forests, many kilometers away. 2 bodies over 100 kilometers away. Now, what are you telling me? If that is not criminality, if that is not a rogue system.
It's a system that is basically allowing these things to happen.
In the last 6 months.
Allowing the criminalities to happen. I want to put it back now, Kiama, because all these things that you're saying sound like the things that were happening before the 2010 Constitution. Organizations such as yourself, IMLU and others, and other human rights organizations contributed a lot in the conversations towards the amendment, the writing of the new constitution and the setting up of these structures. So we have the National Police Service Commission, we have the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, we have others, we have human rights and a whole chapter on the Bill of Rights in the Constitution. And then just 2-3 years down after the implementation of the Constitution, we still have a system that has not moved. Police reforms that are not moving. Where is the problem? The system, we cannot blame the system. The system was rotten, and that's why you are overhauling the system with the Constitution. But you've not been able to implement those reforms, what's the problem? Is the problem those organizations that were supposed to be doing the oversight? Is the problem the national government? Is the problem the civil society as well, who sort of looked the other way?
Now, I don't know everything, but I'll tell you where I think the problem is. The problem is the command structure. The commanders are not doing, the police commanders are not doing their job. In the case of Kenjokoma or Embu, with the two young men, because it's the most recent and the most gruesome, incident. The two boys disappear. The parents go looking for them. They go to the police station. The police station says, we don't know. Okay? They go again, we don't know. Yet it was already known what had happened. All right? It took the Deputy Inspector General of Police to go to Embu for the people to calm down and for dialogue to happen. Why should we expect the Deputy Inspector General of Police to drive all the way to Embu, 2.5 to 3 hours, to deal with an incident like that, when we have commanders from the region to the county, to the sub-county, to the police station?
So, Kiama, before you go on, this is after the fact, however, right? So at that point, when you're talking about a broken or a rotten system and not particular rogue officers who are dealing with this, at that point, when these two boys were in the pickup or whatever happened, at that point where somebody, because now we are hearing from that there was, blunt force trauma and all of this. By the time somebody is taking an object to somebody's head and basically taking their life, at that point, when said police officer allegedly is doing this, in that moment, is it an issue of a broken system, or is it somebody who is taking the law into their own hands, knowing or working on the assumption that nothing will happen to them, that they can do whatever they want?
It's a broken system. It's the ethos of the system. It is the practices of the system. If today, and things happen in this country. If today the two of you knew that the system here at SpiceFM or KTN allows you to ask me for a bribe for me to appear on this show, you'll definitely ask me for a bribe for me to appear. And only those who pay will appear on this show. But because your ethos are different and are clearly communicated by those in charge, and you have embraced them as employees of this company, and the management, has drawn a line on the ground on the principles and guidelines, then you'll be very, very careful. Very, very careful. And I'm saying this because I have experienced in my working life people asking me in the systems I operate in, before I sign this contract you're giving me, I want to know what you expect. All right? Because in many systems, things have gone wrong.
That's how it works.
Because in my system, and my board knows and has clearly communicated, there's no space for that kind of discussion. It's very clear to me, there's no ambiguity. This morning, I drove here early morning. On the road from my place to here, there were cops collecting money from vehicles in the morning. Okay? And there are quite a number of senior officers who live in the neighborhood where I live in. And they drive that road every day, evening and morning, going to work.
Right.
Don't they see those cops collecting money? Don't they know those cops collect money?
So
that's the system that you are dealing with. That
allows this to happen.
The system allows this to happen, and the buck stops with the commanders at all levels, from national level all the way to the station.
But also, there was an issue of reforming the system. And I want to head back there. Because the whole idea of changing this, of even putting it in the constitution and saying we want to sort of create some independence in the structure and management and governance of the police, is so that we can reform that. It's because we knew that this is the problem. Why is it not working? I have to keep going back there. Because unless we go back and find out why is it, previously we didn't have a police service commission, now we do.
Yeah.
Previously we didn't have IPOA, now we do. Previously we didn't have, a civil society that was so focused on police reforms that was even being supported by law, because now there's a law that talks about police reforms. There are regulations that have been published by the police. With all those things in place, why can't it work?
We need to see heads roll in a big time. And I'm saying this because we are going to the elections. And I don't think Kenyans will feel safe, including myself, going to the elections with the kind of policing practice we are seeing now. There must be a big radical change before we go to the elections. Because how would you be safe with officers who arrest you and then a few minutes you are dead? What happens especially to those who are not supporting the incumbency? What will happen to them? 2013 we counted dead bodies. 2017 we counted dead bodies. 2008 we counted dead bodies from the police. So do we expect a different experience? Kenyans are asking for a different experience as we go to the elections. What is going wrong is that we are not getting heads rolling where they should roll, or the heads that are supposed to roll are not rolling. We need to see that.
So of whom are we supposed to demand this?
Yes.
Of whom are we supposed to demand
the commanders.
this? Because what are we hearing is that, for even with this case, the Embu case, is that, the slap on the wrist action that we heard was that, a couple of them were transferred to another area. All right. Of whom are we supposed to say, look here, a transfer doesn't work? These are lives of, potential. I mean, look at the potential in these two young boys, right? They just opened a butchery. They started a business which was going to help the community, which is going to help themselves. Yeah. Potential snuffed out. Yeah. Of whom do we demand and say, look, a lot more than a transfer needs to take place for the families, for the friends, for the community at large to experience justice?
What we've done is we need to deal with the blue code of silence within the National Police Service. There are commanders across the country who cannot take action against some of these guys because they fear them.
They're juniors.
Yeah, I came across a case in Nairobi. Somebody I know had made a complaint against the deputy OCS. And the OCS was telling this person I know, you know what, I cannot take action against this guy. How can you help me? And I had to refer them to another higher level for them to see if they could get support. Now, you cannot operate in that kind of situation and expect to be safe and secure, regardless of who you are in this society. And we have seen. It's not only the poor who are suffering.
Yep.
No. It's all of us are at risk. So, in terms of then responsibility, the National Police Service has a very good procedure. It's a command structure. It's a command structure. So, it's command and control. So, it has a very good. The National Police Service has even a unit that audits police operations. For example, when the people of Kejokoma rose up, and I appreciate their effort, because if it were not for their effort, maybe we may not have seen any investigations started. So I don't agree with the violence, but I think people have to rise up. It's the high time that people have to rise up and say, no, we want a police station that looks like this. We want police officers in our station who respect the law and the constitution. In that particular situation, when the people rose up against that violence and they were shot, live bullets, one died, two seriously injured, the police are supposed to, the commander at the police station, if a situation like this arises, is supposed to prepare an operation order to say, this is the threat we are facing, not as police, but as a community.
Yeah.
That this demonstration might, end up endangering people's lives or, all our own lives. So the first point of call is the commander to prepare the operation order. That operation order is not supposed to be against the people. It's not supposed to be a punitive operation order. Now, unfortunately, most of those operations are prepared in a manner that is quite punitive. It's supposed to protect the life of the officer and the lives of the people in that particular jurisdiction. And so if you want to know what happened and why somebody died, ask the commanding officer, where is the operation order? Okay, that's the first point to call.
And Lakovic points to...
Police don't just leave the station and run and go to the street.
They have clear instructions.
There's a command. And that's the point I'm making is, the institutions we have, the oversight institutions, have failed to hold, to emphasize and to focus on command responsibility. Yeah. Command, when things go wrong, the commander must answer.
The question that we ask
whether they fired the bullet or not, it is their jurisdiction.
Yes. Somebody ought to
answer
to this.
What has happened is that institutions like IPOA have proceeded to follow through with individual criminal responsibility, which is okay. But they have failed to embrace their other power, that is to hold the commanders to account. It is the high time that organizations like IPOA now begin to hold each commander to account, not only for the firing of a gun, but the reporting. Every incident, according to the law, every incident where the police fire a gun or injure somebody or somebody dies in their hands, they're supposed to report.
Somebody needs to take responsibility.
In most cases, they don't report.
Let's take a break at this point and say goodbye to our audience on KTN Home. The conversation continues on SpiceFM into the next hour, where we want to ask you to also call in and contribute to this. What do we need to do so that we can see police doing what they are supposed to do? Clearly, their bosses are not doing what should be done. So what do you and I need to do? Good morning, 3 minutes to 9.
Spice FM, Malindi.
So, yes, Kema, you're saying IPOA has a duty to not just hold the officers responsible criminally, but also the command responsible for how they're doing their job. There's the internal affairs unit within the police. They also have that responsibility. And all those appear not to be working. When they don't work, who else?
Us, citizens. Remember, we have parliament. Are we on?
Yes.
We have command responsibility. Number two, remember, we have parliament. Parliament is another oversight body over the police. Parliament is supposed to hold the Inspector General to account for any action or failure to act of the National Police Service. We have presented many reports to the Senate Committee on Security, on Justice and Legal Affairs. We have presented to the National Assembly committees. But what we see is very ineffective mechanisms at parliamentary level to hold the national security organs to account. We are basically seeing very routine hearings that end up in nothing.
Let's continue the conversation in the next hour, where we also open up the phone lines and hear from citizens. So, when we get to a point where, you feel that the police are not doing what they should be doing, despite having all the structures, there's a constitution, there's law, there are procedures that have been published, but we still feel that they are not doing what they ought to be doing. So how then do we demand accountability? And how then do we force through the police reforms that Kenyans so desired by even enacting them in the constitution? This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Zambian opposition leader Hakainde Hichilema has been declared the winner of the presidential election conducted late last week. Hichilema now takes over from outgoing President Edgar Lungu. Zambian Electoral Commission Chairperson Esau Chulu announced the official results this morning after counting of ballots was completed in all but one of the states.
Hichilema Hakainde is 2,810,757. 2,810,757. I therefore declare the said Hichilema Hakainde S to be President-elect of the Republic of Zambia.
Innocence Boys High School in Osengeshe County has been closed after Form 1 student died. The closure of the school has caused panic among parents and residents who now claim that the students were sent home without being tested for COVID-19.
Tumestuka kusikia mtoto amefariki usiku, hainje painika ni nini, otherwise tunasikia fununu kwamba ni corona, na hata kama si corona, hawa watoto wangewachiliwa bila kutestiwa.
The Ministry of Health concerned to take action on this matter and conduct a mass testing in this area of Burnt Forest, and also before the students come in, we would like to know what exactly happened to the boy.
Wanafunzi wamewachiliwa na saizi naona hata wengi tumetengana nao na hatujui kama ni corona. Sasa si kumaanisha hata si sasa wakazi wa Burnt Forest tuko kwenye shida.
However, Wasingishu County Commissioner Stephen Kihara says an investigation has been launched to determine the cause of death. All matatu operators have been warned of a crackdown on all public service vehicles for using illegal drop-off and pick-up points within the city. Among the SACCOs on the spot for the vice include Unified Poor, ROG, Lucky BD Travelers, Nazigi SACCO and Isli Sakila Classic. According to NMS Chief Enforcement Officer Makle Leruk, the vice has now spilled over to the estate. Motorbike operators have also been put on the spot for what Leruk says has been increased muggings in the CBD by motorbike users. A middle-aged woman is being held at Manga Police Station in Nyamira County after she tried to kill a 7-month-old baby. According to Nyamira County Commissioner Amos Mariba, Veronica Mukera is reported to have dropped her son on the floor after she was angered by her husband. Neighbors who went to her house to find out why the baby was crying were shocked to find the baby with injuries from the fall. The child is currently being treated at a local hospital while investigations continue. Former South African President Jacob Zuma has undergone unspecified surgery and remains in hospital with more operations planned. According to prison authorities, Zuma, who is serving a 15-month sentence for contempt of court, was sent to a hospital outside for observation on August 6th. Days before the start of a corruption trial he has thus far avoided. There was no word on a potential discharge date for Zuma, who in July asked the country's top court to reverse his incarceration, saying it was unjust and might kill him if he catches COVID-19. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
And where does it continue to be really bad? It doesn't look good at all on Mombasa Road, guys. Coming towards the city, at least, the very least, to General Motors is jam-packed, bumper to bumper, completely. And we're already at a gridlock at 9 in the morning, and this traffic started as early as 5 a.m. Mombasa Road, and we know that in a very short while everybody will be back on this road to be able to go back in the opposite direction. Hopefully this will not be the order of the day every day. The alternate route that we have right now is the ICD route. If you've not been able to get on that, it looks like this is where you'll be stuck for some time. However, just before the SGR, take the ICD route out through to the southern bypass if you're going to town. If your destination is still Mombasa Road, unfortunately, you're going to have to stick through this one. But let's keep an eye on things and see how it goes through most parts of the morning. Where does it look sticky? Still on Thika Road, still on Langata Road, coming into the city from Jogo Road and then joining with Landis Road. Doesn't look good either, guys. We are looking at stuck, all from sticky. Okay, let's see what it looks like in a short while and see how it has opened up. SpiceFM KE is how you can get in touch on Twitter. Tell us where you find a good route, or if you're stuck somewhere and someone else can help to get you out.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room. The only way.
2021. In the room is Eric Latif, Nduoko. C.T. Muga will be back tomorrow morning. We have our guest, who is Peter Kiama, the Executive Director of IMLU, in the studio with us for a couple more minutes as we open up the phone lines and continue this conversation. The conversation is about pursuit of justice and demand for proper, meaningful police reforms. Today's proverb, having a good conversation is like having riches. Having a good conversation is like having riches. So Kiama, we've talked about, looking at Kenjokama, what has happened, looking at very many other places that you have documented as IMLU, where people are picked up by police or people just end up dying. And the last person they were seen with was a police officer. Or the person who picked them up was a police officer. We have talked about police moving from being a police force to a police service. We have talked about creating some sort of independence and arm's length relationship between the national executive and the police. That has been, there's been a lot of back and forth on that, even the control of the national executive over the Police Service Commission itself. And the justification that people elect a government that provides them security. And then if the head of that government cannot give command on the provision of security, then you've basically taken away the power of the people have given the person. Is there a justification on that?
The thing is that the way the national, our police institution was set up, and the previous, the culture, the orientation, was that the police were policing the people, from colonial times. That is the culture and the tradition we have inherited. That we are targets. We are not partners with the national police.
Yeah.
We are supposed to be policed. So we are actually objects to be policed. That's the tradition and the culture we inherited. But we brought in place new laws and new constitutional principles. And it was the responsibility of the national government, because this is a national government responsibility, to transform that institution to the new culture. A new culture where we police together. None of us is policed. We police together. Remember, the responsibility of the National Police Service is not even actually to arrest. It is to prevent crime. That's the primary responsibility of a policing service. How do you prevent crime if you're not working with communities? How do you prevent crime if you don't have a national police program that goes to each and every school, over 20,000, almost 30,000 primary schools now? There is a national program where you have youth liaison officers or children liaison officers at each police station who ensure they go to each and every school and work with the children.
But right now, every citizen...
And build trust and build confidence.
Every citizen, your first reaction where you do see a police officer is one of trepidation. Like, okay, you're not really sure what is the situation. And that I think we'd be hard-pressed to find somebody who would say, oh, look, policeman or woman, I'm so happy. I mean, the first reaction is not that. And I think that is a reaction that has come from compounded, conditioning of this thing that you're talking about. But then the overwhelming question is, how then do we get over it? How do we get past that? That to think, am I going to be in a sticky situation on a Thursday night? Will I be alive Friday morning? Will I be in a sticky situation with police Thursday night? Yeah. Will I be alive on Friday morning?
Yeah.
I think by the time we get to that, it's a very, very scary situation.
Remember, we've been doing research on these things just to understand what's happening to us. Because, the police institution is our institution. It is part of our society. We did a survey on what we call a urban violence prevention study with the University of Edinburgh in 2016. And we were researching on urban violence. What did we find? We find that 25% of the people in the eastern side of Nairobi, Kamukoji, Shri, those areas, some of the poorest areas in this city, over 25% had suffered violence in the last 3 years. And when we asked them, where did you suffer this violence? They said within the household. Then automatically, our knee-jerk reaction was that must be domestic violence.
Domestic violence.
Right.
We were shocked to find that it was not actually domestic violence. It was actually violence from criminal gangs and police officers. And we asked them, what do you mean? Are you saying police officers come to your house? And they said, yes. I live in this ramshackle thing, in the slums, and they just kick my door and come in and do whatever they want to do. So most of the urban violence suffered, according to that study, was by criminal gangs. Followed closely at number 2 by uniformed police officers. Now, that is the system I'm talking about.
Which means that even the criminal gangs then also have the tacit support of the police.
Yeah. Remember, the study did not, bring that out because we didn't interrogate that particular question. If we wanted to, we can interrogate that. But remember, as I said, the police are a command structure. So, as the commander of the station, when I deploy officers at night for patrol, or even during the day, I am expected to monitor and supervise them when they're on patrol. Right. Just like private security guards, we see the supervisor going on patrol.
Yep.
Don't we? We see that.
Yes.
And they sign a book somewhere saying, I went to this gate and that gate and that gate, and the guard was on duty and the guard was awake.
Yep.
Okay? They actually have alerts. Some of them have alarms that wake you up, and that if you don't respond to the alarm, your supervisor will know digitally that you're actually asleep because the alarm went off.
You
didn't.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
So there are systems that are supposed to be in place to monitor and supervise officers on the beat. You see? So the systems are there. But are they working? Ask Kenyans who are listening. Are they working? We had an incident in my neighborhood where the officers, who are in charge of that particular street, the patrol, they usually in twos. You would fight them up to around Sambili. After that, nobody. But if we are in partnership under community policing with the OCS, we will tell the OCS, your officers only come up twice.
Yes. We haven't seen
and he'll be able to respond.
Yeah.
That's how beautiful community policing works.
Yeah.
That is I can trust the OCS can trust me. And that, we have an ongoing conversation here about our community.
Having communities working with the police is a crucial one, and especially for some communities that have faced the wrath of being profiled along the issue of terrorism. Yeah. The communities are the coast. We're going to have somebody on the line now. His name is Wanyaki Nodia, who will speak to us from Kilifi County. He has a personal experience that he'd like to share with us about police, the anti-terrorism police unit, community policing, and response by the police. Good morning, Wanye.
Good morning. Good morning to you all and everyone else listening.
Good morning.
Asante sana for speaking to us this morning, Wanye.
Thank you for your call.
You have a personal experience that you'd like to share with us with regards to police.
Yes.
Yeah, what's happened?
This is regarding my younger brother, Taimur Kariuki Hussein, who was in Lamu on the 11th of June, and he was approached by two officers in plainclothes, claiming they had been following him for a while. And they proceeded they claim he resisted arrest, and they proceeded to beat him before they arrested him and then took him to Lamu police station. I went there, and they said they had charges against him for assault and resisting arrest, which they later dropped. But then they said they had other charges they wanted to press regarding terrorism, so they requested to transfer him to Nairobi to ATPU headquarters. Eventually, they were asked to drop. They took him to court at Kahawa Law Court, and they had nothing. After conducting forensics of his laptop, his phone, they couldn't find anything. So they were told they dropped the charges, and the court ordered for him to be unconditionally released. They took him back to ATPU headquarters, and through his lawyer, they instructed us to go pick him up at 2:00. Which our mother went there, and she was told that he had been released half an hour earlier. So within a day or two, we started getting worried, and we filed for missing persons report, and then we went to court, and we even demanded for them to produce CCTV footage, which they claim to delete every 24 hours, which we find that a bit suspicious. And they also kept his phone. They said they told him to go and come back in 2 days, and they still have his phone until now. So that is where things are at the moment. We are actually going back to court with the help of some organizations and trying to follow this thing to the end, because we believe that they still have him in custody. And this is also, it touches on other families that you've mentioned. The other families who lost breadwinners. You can imagine 5 years down the road, and they still don't know where their loved one is. It's very, very tormenting.
So, Wanya, if I can just confirm that his release was unconditional from court. So clearly there was an order.
From the High Court, yes.
Yes, so there was an order of the same, isn't it?
Yes.
And usually in these cases that you then have one presented to the holding facility. In this case was Kahawa Police Station?
ATPU headquarters.
Okay.
ATPU headquarters in Upper Hill.
All right. So often, all the time, as is the case, that such an order will also be presented to the holding facility. Did they confirm that they had such an order?
No.
They didn't?
No.
And when you went on that day, when he's said to have been released, did they tell you who was then responsible? Because also at the time of release, there is an order again that is signed. Did you hear who was responsible for that?
There's an investigating officer who had been with him the whole time when he was in Upper Hill. And the lawyer that we had assigned at the time was in touch with him. But he wasn't very helpful in terms of giving us information. So that's why we've gone back to court to start, because we filed for this called habeas corpus, that they produce him whether he's alive or, dead. But we're hoping that he's not the latter.
In the pursuit of justice now, are you going back to court? Okay, yes, you've gone back to court and you've filed for habeas corpus. And the response that you're still getting from the police is, we released this gentleman. We are not aware where he is. As far as we are concerned, we set him free as ordered by the court.
We're actually yet to get the hearing date, because we just filed last week with the help of Kenya National Commission on Human Rights.
Yep.
So we're waiting now for the case to actually start.
When you hear this, Kema, I mean, this is one of the cases that you have heard many times before, of people who loved ones are looking for their loved one. They know the last person who had them was a police officer, was a police station, and then the person just disappears. What route should one take in such a case?
I think my first response, and pole sana Bwana Wanye, about your brother.
Thank you.
The first route I would take is to confirm that our constitution has provisions, to protect under the freedom and the security of the person, to protect us from those, enforced disappearances. Because his case seems to be a case of enforced disappearances, where you disappear in the custody of security officers. because that's basically it. The last person seen. So the persons of interest would be the officer who was with him. That's the officer who needs to answer to this in the first instance. You don't go, anywhere else. The worrying thing is that since the beginning of the year, and even in previous years, but since the beginning of the year, we are seeing an increase in the number of persons dead in police custody, police station custody, and enforced disappearances. People are picked up and they just disappear. Yeah, some have been found dead. Others are never found. It's a very scary thing for families. And if the intention of officers who are doing that is to instill the fear of God in us as citizens, it's not helpful at all. It's actually counterproductive. It has been proven through studies in counterterrorism, if it's the case here, that the more violence you met against the people in countering violence, the more ground you create for recruitment. Because you actually feel resentment against government and against security agencies. You actually create resentment against the wider society among those who feel they are targeted. So it's counterproductive. And that's why you find that NGOs who are working in counterterrorism, which we don't do much, like one of the organizations working in Kamukunji, Dandora, that area, Buruburu, have encouraged the police stations to establish youth liaison office desks at police stations, where there's an officer, a young officer, who works with the youth and who is able to establish trust and confidence. And in that way, you are able to even gather enough intelligence to prevent these things from happening. So instead of terrorizing people, engage the people. That's what this NGO called SOED is doing. And that's the way to go. That we have given our National Police Service the monopoly of coercive force. And that's the nature of democracy, that all of us are capable of unleashing violence. But we have given one institution, the institution of the police, the monopoly of violence. But with a caveat, that this violence must be exercised legitimately, constitutionally, and lawfully. Now, if government or the police service then exercises this coercive force illegally, unconstitutionally, and irregularly, what they basically do is to legitimize violence. They legitimize violence. When you legitimize violence, you actually open a Pandora's box, because whatever violence you are directing at us will
directed at you.
Yeah. And so what we have done, what the National Police Service has done through the system allowing police to be violent in that manner, is actually to make themselves legitimate targets of citizens. And we've been warning against this for a long time. That the more you beat us up, the more you tell us, hey, you know what? We can also beat you up. It's legitimate.
Creating grounds for that.
Precisely. So we need to be very, very careful in this instance. Now, this particular incident is not in isolation. There have been many cases of people disappearing in the course of investigating terrorism. And as I said, it's counterproductive. I am happy that the family has not been silenced, that they are still working on the case. I would encourage them to continue working with IPOA, working with the National Human Rights Commission, and also working with the judicial system as well in terms of habeas corpus, because it's critical that the police produce this person who was in their custody.
In addition to that, Kiama, and also for you, Wanye, even as you had said that you believe that he is still in police custody, why do you believe that? And then also, is there anything, even an inkling of a reason as to why that you think why they would have picked him up? Anything at all that comes into your mind?
Well, I can't think of any reason why they would have picked him up. My brother was a bit reclusive. He liked to be on his own sometimes. So maybe they just thought he was strange in that way. I don't know. But if they had anything, they would have been able to produce it in court.
Yeah.
And at some point, they were saying that, it was said at some point that his phone had been used to make phone calls to, people in Bonny Forest. But if they had that, why didn't they produce that in court? That would have been sufficient to press charges against him.
Mm.
And then when they claimed they released him, they actually signed an affidavit at the Capitol Hill. I think it was the Capitol Hill police station, and they said that he assisted them in investigations, and he was very helpful in that sense. So, but this other thing about the CCTV footage, that's not that really surprises me. Is them claiming that they delete it every 24 hours in a place like that,
and it's a police station. I mean, why would you
at the ATPU headquarters?
Yeah.
I mean,
was this the first encounter between your brother Kariuki Hussein and police?
Yes.
Never been arrested before, never been held before.
Well, when he was in the US, he had at one point his papers had expired and he had been detained at immigration, but then he was released and given a work permit, and he continued working.
Yeah.
And eventually he came back home because he felt he'd been away for too long. But ever since coming back here, he'd never had any problems with any law enforcement.
Wanye, you and your family, especially your mom, you must be going through something that is very, very, very traumatizing at this particular moment. And at least we are grateful that the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights is walking this journey with you.
Yes. It's been very difficult, but I must say something that's a bit interesting, that's giving us a bit of strength. Because when, we used to hear about people disappearing, we used to hear about young people disappearing at the coast in Bokoni and those places. Mm-hmm. And it never really, it doesn't really touch you until it happens to you.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then you realize that, okay, your brother's been missing for a week or a month. Somebody's been missing for 5 years, and you can't imagine what they're going through.
Yeah.
So now this is opening, to me, it's actually opened a kind of worms, and I feel it's actually a very important discussion we're having that needs to be had. That this issue has to be addressed, because if this can happen to anyone, then nobody's safe. It can happen to you, it can happen to me. What kind of a country are we living in?
That's very true. Wanya, thank you very much for sharing that with us.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you, Wanye.
Asante sana. Kiama, this and very many such cases every day. Every day. And we are here, citizens, we talk about all those things that we have in place. In fact, with all the institutions that we are talking about, add on to it the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. Right. So structurally, we have set up everything to make sure that we live by the law.
Yeah.
That we have justice. Even when somebody appears to have, taken away justice from you, there's somebody else who will fight for you. But we still end up with so many cases. There's a breakdown. There's a big breakdown, Kiama. And I think we can say, yes, there's a police itself, which is broken. And it's part of the reason why we were fixing it to the Constitution. There's also a breakdown of those that were putting in to fix this service. How do we correct this?
There are many ways, but I would go back to the fact that, like Kariki has said, there's a need for us to rise up and say enough is enough. Because if we don't, we are going to lose even the little gains we have made in reforming our national police service. One of the biggest issues that I struggle with today is accusations that I get every day from people who call, people I meet, when I try to rally people around police reforms and to encourage them to partner with the police at their police stations. And they tell me, is this the police service you want us to partner with? And I tell them, yes. Why? Because I'm not saying that it's perfect. What I'm saying is, if you don't engage and make demands within your constitutional rights, we are going to totally lose it. Remember in 2009, we had the police go out addressing the issue that was there in central Kenya and Nairobi, around Mungiki. And over 500 youth were massacred by the police, to a point where the UN sent their special rapporteur on extrajudicial executions, who actually indicted the state for a policy of executions. We are slowly getting back to that point, where now it's not one group, it's all of us who are at risk. So it's even worse than 209.
Oh, sure. And in this case,
it's even worse.
Peter, without a doubt, it's different when you're saying, you're asking of your local leader to demand that infrastructure be set up. This is something different. You're essentially raising up your voice to demand a service from the, institution that was set up to protect you.
Yeah.
Okay. No, you had said that it was supposed to quell crime. But at the same time then, protecting you as an individual.
Safety and security.
Safety and security in this country. So they're not doing it. In many cases, a number of them standing up and killing Kenyans. And then you're saying, rise up and then go and demand this service of them. But the fear of many people is that you'll be clobbered or killed. So you're not going to go and step up and ask these questions because you're fearing for your life.
They rose up in Kenjokama. One died. Two others are injured.
Yeah.
I mean, this is happening. People rise up, there's a consequence.
Exactly.
And there is no punishment
for
those actions.
Yeah, but change happens, and change has its own price.
Yeah.
We have to understand that there's a price to pay for getting a transformed national police service. We must come together. Remember, as individuals, we cannot do much. But if we come together in our mosques, in our churches, in our temples, we have religious leaders. My call is for organized citizenry. If Kenyans can be able to come together and build a 50 million mosque, 100 million temple, a 50 million church or cathedral, that is huge, and it's not like Kenyans are contributing 1 million shillings per parishioner.
No.
It's literally through money coming together over the years and saying, finally, we have given ourselves this. What I want to remind Kenyans is, if we did not rise up and come together, we would not be having a constitution like the one we have today. We would not be having the National Police Service Act, which actually has suffered a lot of attack from government, from the executive especially. Remember, we had the Security Laws Amendment in 2014. We tried our best to ensure that we safeguard what we had gained. We lost a bit. And that's part of the reason why you're finding we have this problem with the National Police Service. That some of the amendments that were made to remove the independence of tenure of the Inspector General and the Deputy Inspector Generals, that the President can fire you any time and appoint another person. We were safeguarding the National Police Service against that. So Kenyans must know there's a price to pay for democracy. And the price of democracy is eternal vigilance. And vigilance comes with concerted efforts, like the people of Kejokoma who rose up and said, no, this is not acceptable. We must rise up. And we must know that this is not a class issue. It cuts across. We must come together and hold each other's hands. Now, in terms of the oversight institutions, my call would be to the board members of IPOA to go beyond the call of duty. It requires us to go beyond the call of duty. I commend the Internal Affairs Unit, because I still believe that the Internal Affairs Unit of the National Police Service, which is comprised of police officers, is the future of National Police Service. Why do I say so? Because it's supposed to inculcate internal accountability, a new culture, a new thinking. That's what they're supposed to do. And I've seen them begin to make tangible gains after they were separated from, Jogo House and given a completely new office where we can walk in and they're not in uniform. That's creating confidence, and more people are going to the Internal Affairs Unit, including police officers. So I would encourage them to go beyond the call of duty, because the transformation will require that all of us go beyond the call of duty in this sense. So citizens agency is critical in transforming our National Police Service at all levels.
Thank you very much. Peter Kiama is the Executive Director of the Independent Medical Legal Unit. We've been talking about police reforms. We want to open up the phone lines for the remaining 25 or so minutes and hear from you. What is it that we can do to make the police service responsive to the citizens? How can we make the police service responsive to citizens? The conversation that we've been having this morning, with all the cases that we hear left, right and center, show a service that still operates as if it's not answerable to the people, or it's not there to serve the people, but there to serve other interests. How can we make that not the case, but the case being that it's responsive to the citizens? 24 minutes to 9 to 10. Let's take a break, see the traffic and the weather, and then we open up the phone lines for you to call in 0719 012 600.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
They are stealing every opportunity that you should have. They are stealing your health facilities. They are stealing all the progress that you planned for your child. They are stealing all the benefits that university students should have. Your livelihood is slowly being taken away from you, which means your life is also being slowly taken away from you as you watch.
Cut through the noise and stay in the know by texting the word TSR to 22840 to receive these and more highlights and insights from the Situation Room directly to your mobile phone. Don't miss out on the latest from Kenya's biggest conversation. SMS TSR to 22840.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Spice FM.
It's getting hot in here.
Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they're getting per year, how much inconvenience they're causing, as much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation. Because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a fuliza country. We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef working, and the assistant chef, wakati anatakana koroge unga nini hayuko.
The weather with Spice FM.
All right, those chilly conditions back in Nairobi. We will then see highs of 25 and lows of 16. In the city, rather lows of 14. Light rain continues. Light rain also in Nyeri at 14, highs of 19 and lows of 13. 12 will be the low in Nakuru, where it's cloudy at 17. And we'll see lows of 11 in Eldoret, where it's mostly cloudy. Cloudy conditions in Kisumu, lows of 17. And mostly cloudy conditions at 23 in Kakamega with highs of 27. 28 will be the high in a rainy Mombasa. We're also looking at 28 as the high in Malindi, where it's raining as well. Mostly sunny in Kampala at 22. Light rain at 26 in Dar es Salaam, highs of 29 and lows of 22. It's now sunny in Johannesburg at 9 with highs of 19. 29 will be the high in Lagos, where it's raining at 24. 24 and also raining in Kinshasa with highs of 31 and lows of 23. Light rain at 28 in Beijing, highs of 29 and lows of 22. We're looking at highs of 22 in Paris, where it's mostly cloudy at 17. Sunny at 14 in London, highs of 20 and lows of 13, and mostly clear at 23 in New York, highs of 27 and lows of 22.
Spice up your life.
Okay, still continues in some areas, especially on Mombasa Road and then out on Thika Road. The Mlolongo gridlock today, what we're seeing, is caused by overlapping as well as everybody using just one lane. It doesn't look pretty at all and looks like it's going to continue well past traffic hour into most of the morning. This one requires patience and more patience on top of that. Let's just watch out for that situation during most parts of this morning. Also, we're looking at Jogo Road out into the city. Looks like it's going to slow down just quite some as you get towards Landis Road and also on Langata Road. So this was the Monday that many were hoping they didn't wake up to, but unfortunately we're going to have to deal with as we see. Let's keep looking out. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
There are people in various offices who don't feel as if they are responsible for anything or that they are answerable to the public. One of those is this institution called Kenya National Highways Authority. They don't think they owe you an explanation or an answer to anything. So what if you're stuck in traffic? Can't you see there's a construction going on? That's the mentality.
Yeah, and you roll with the punches, deal with it, but we really don't have anything to answer to you.
A couple of months back, there was a similar problem of traffic snarl-up on Mombasa Road. People spent a night there. Was it a Friday or a Saturday?
It was Friday night into Saturday morning. It was absolutely crazy, and we had traffic in kilometers, counted as, over 5,000 vehicles in one space at a time. But you know what?
There was no response to that at all. Then again, it happens on Friday. Same thing happens again. No response to that at all. This morning, there's chaos on Mombasa Road. And Kenya are behaving as if they are not even in Nairobi, that their headquarters is somewhere in the middle of the ocean.
Outer space at this rate. Looking down on everybody.
Yes.
Else. Yeah, looking down on everybody else and saying, yes, okay, well, we know that by... But the thing is, this traffic that we are talking about on Mombasa Road, we're not talking about something that's fleeting by. It remains there for the majority of the day.
Yes.
By the time you get to 3 o'clock, folks who've been on that road for 3 hours in the morning are thinking,
time on the way back.
I need to start going back.
Yeah.
If not, I'm going to be there till 9 o'clock, and then there's curfew at 10. My God, so much drama that's going up on these roads, but nobody's really bothering.
Yeah.
And the painful thing is that there is something that can be done. There are private roads behind here, Mombasa Road, which you still have security officers yet again taking bribes for people to open them for them to pass. Those are not even diversions. Those are options that can be used. They can be used. But they're just not being done because vumilia through the situation, and come December, whenever they said they're going to finish the road, this pain will end.
Even managing the traffic, just make it one-way traffic and create another way for people to... There's a lot. Engineering is a discipline of solutions and efficiency. And if you have people who call themselves engineer one or the other, working for the Kenya National Highways Authority, and yet they cannot think of a solution like this is absolute nonsense. And I think they need to feel that they are answerable. They need to feel that they are answerable. We've been reaching out to Kenya. We'd like to have Kenya on this show so that they can come and tell Kenyans, why are you suffering on the road when you shouldn't be suffering on the road? The other people that need to respond to this are the police. The Deputy Inspector General of Police goes all the way to Kenjakama village and is the one who's calling. Just like Yama was saying, that gentleman did not have to go there. No. We have a regional commander of police. We have a county police commander. We have a sub-county police commander. And when the Deputy Inspector General of Police goes there, he just says, yes, the officers have been transferred. The sub-county commander to the commander of the station, they've been transferred to another as investigations commence. That doesn't answer the question.
No, it doesn't.
2 young men had died. When the citizens rose to demand answers, a third person died and 2 others are hospitalized because of the actions of your officers. And all you're doing is saying, we shall come up with a report. We shall give you answers on what happened. We know what happened.
We know what happened. There are 2 young men who died. We know what happened. Maybe we do not know the violence with which they died. We do not know who exactly did it. We do not know the details of how exactly it happened. That is what people would have loved to know. And the reasons behind that. Why did you do that? Because right now, unfortunately, there is no reason as to why their lives were taken because they flouted curfew rules. What are we talking about? The answers that you should be giving to Kenyans is what they're telling us that they will give us at 10 o'clock today. In the next 16 or so minutes, we will be told, we'll be given this report by the IG.
You trust
IPOA,
that? I am not
and
holding
Internal
my
Affairs
breath.
to tell us the investigations that have taken place over the last few days and what they've been able to find.
Yeah. Let's go to the phone line, 0719-012-600. Alan in Buruburu. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today, Alan?
Eric and Du, I hope everything is okay on your side.
We're doing okay, man.
Yeah, it's a sensitive topic that you're talking about, but let's be honest, I want to correct Kiama.
Mm-hmm.
Internal Affairs Unit is dead before it takes off.
How so? Why do you say so?
I have been on. I've called you a number of times. There's a case that happened to me in 2018. I've gone all the way to the office of the president.
Mm-hmm.
Even the Internal Affairs, Matiangi's office.
Yeah.
And then the AG, even IPOA, they were just operating behind their desks. My case has gone nowhere. There was no even single police officer was held to account. And I was held in a police station for 1 week.
So you had been arrested and held for a whole week?
My house was vandalized during that time and being in a police station.
Mm-hmm. Until date, you don't know why you were being held.
Oh, sorry, we lost you, Alan. Please try and call back so we can get this story again. 0719-012-600. We need to have a police that is responsive to the citizens. How do we make our police service? Remember, it's no longer the police force. The police service that gets the confidence of the public. Because as it appears, people are really losing confidence in the police on a daily basis. Lawrence in Mountain View, good morning. Lawrence, you can call in on 0719-012-600 or SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter on exactly what do we need to do. You know, I was just thinking about this. In Nigeria, people rose up to speak about a specific police unit that they felt was going overboard. Extrajudicial killings, extrajudicial operations.
Extortion, all kinds of things,
And people came out, and it was a huge movement. Now, do you think that's a route that Kenyans ought to take?
I think that, unfortunately, if things continue in this manner, it is a route that Kenyans will not have a choice but to take. Not in terms of ought to take. They will not have a choice but to take. You think of the numbers of mothers and fathers who are sitting in their homes today crying because they finally found out that their children had died. The woman who sits waiting for her husband to come home never came home because there was an accident somewhere, and a police officer who had arrested him for loitering or whatever, he then ended up dead. How many children are waiting for their fathers to come home? How many grandparents are saying, where are my grandchildren? It gets to the point where it bubbles beyond. Those two boys who died in Embu, do you think that it is just their deaths that now took the people of that particular village to stand up and begin to protest? It was a straw of some sorts that broke the camel's back.
Yep.
It's not just the 19-year-old and the 22-year-old.
That heavy-handedness by the police must have been
absolutely
for weeks and months.
At some point, and I keep saying this, it gets to the point where the bubble over effect cannot be contained and people will protest. It's not a matter of should they. It's just a matter of when will they. It's when will it happen. And unless this is not curtailed, unless this rogue behavior is not dealt with, that is what you're staring at the face.
Lydia in Parklands, good morning.
Good morning, SpiceFM. Thank you for this important subject. It's so sad about those youths being murdered and in the hands of police. I would like to suggest that every school should give 2 rooms to the police. 1 room with a desk and a register, and 1 room to lock the criminal, to take him to the police station, and everything should be on record. So children can bring in a lot of information spread around to that police office if every school gives 2 rooms to the police. This helps the police in its network, and the people also keep an eye on these police I think that is good.
Okay.
Very often I stop policemen on the road when he stops a car, and I go there and I greet him friendly, and I ask him, who is this person you have stopped? Is he a robber? And they both laugh. And then the policeman tells him, higher, enter.
It's an attitude of the police. Thank you very much, Lydia. Thank you very much. Anthony in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning, Station Room.
Good morning.
These issues are very sad, and I want to be very brief and say something.
Mm-hmm.
When the police go out there to quell violence, what do they carry?
Guns and rungus.
What kind of rungus?
The big ones.
Ile miti ya njembe. Is that thing supposed to hit you and you survive?
That's not
that
the
is where all
intention.
things go wrong.
Yeah.
Because they are carrying them to hit you with it.
Yeah.
But the size of that rungu, you hit someone with it on the head. Do you expect that someone to survive?
Hardly.
So that's where we should begin. There are whips, they can carry whips if they want to quell violence. But those rungus should be banned completely. Because that is what they used to kill those boys. If there were whips, we could not be talking about the boys dying. But most of these people are being killed by blunt objects, their rungus.
Yeah. Sure.
I think that is where we should start.
That's true. Asante sana. Thank you very much, Anthony. You know, as we're talking about, what other ways, in addition to, campaigning at citizen action, I think there's also the issue of just, because we have the laws, is calling out on those agencies that are established to ensure that the law is followed. Yep. Starting with the leadership. What is it that your local MP is doing to bring that conversation to Parliament and say, we demand to see police reforms taking place? Because if we don't do that, if we don't see that, if we get to a point where citizens rise up and come out to protest against police brutality, it becomes ugly and it gets dangerous on a daily basis. Before we get there,
I don't know. I'm thinking about incidences where things became an issue of national leadership importance. And almost every time it started with citizens coming out and making noise. This case of the Embu situation, because people said we're not going to allow this, is now when you see involvement.
The speaker and everybody else
coming out and
funeral.
talking because people were shouting. When will it flip? When will it be that there has been a system so well put in place that when things like this, or that stops things like this from happening in the first place?
That's true. Alan in Buruburu is back. Alan, you were telling us about your case were you saying 2018 when you were arrested?
Yeah, in 2018, I've been homeless till this time. I'm homeless. I had built a home over 31 years old. I was there. I was working in community policing. That's when I started being targeted. And I can tell you, right up to now, when the police held me for about 6 days, there was nothing. They could not prove why they were holding me to date. And then I had a meeting with Charlson Muridi's boys at Internal Affairs with IPOA on the one side.
Yep.
And after that, there was no single policeman who was brought to court, even for the just to explain why I was held in a police facility.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, it's been 3 years now. I've been pursuing this case. That's why I've gotten even to the office of the president. After going through Matiangi and Lower, still I went to IG. It was the Boynet, and now it's Mutiambai.
Yep.
But I agree with what Nigerians did. Kenyans need to rise up. The whole entire police force needs to go home. No pension, no benefits, nothing at all. Maybe the military should take over for a while, and then we have a new police force.
Completely revamp it.
Completely, yeah, because even the internal affairs involves the same officers. And they were lying to IPOA that they call me, I don't cooperate. We go to Kajiado Commandant, the same lies are said that I'm not cooperating, I'm not being called. I told them, pull out Safaricom records. You will see if you have ever called me. But unfortunately, recently, even IPOA pulled out. Now I am on my own.
Pole sana, Alan.
But I'm one of the people who survived.
Alan,
I want you to watch a clip. I went to Imlu. Imlu could not take my case at Mokoyeti Road. I've done all this legwork.
Have you reached out to the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights?
Yes, I went there. They say their hands are tied. They cannot do everything. IPOA should investigate.
Hey,
I'm telling you, my dear brother and sister and Kiama out there, I have been to all these offices.
Pole sana, Alan.
And they wanted to kill me in broad daylight.
Pole sana.
This
is a matter that needs to be pushed further and further. Thank you very much, Alan.
Something needs to be done.
Very good. Mwangi in Nairobi, good morning.
Morning, Latif. Morning, Andu.
Good morning.
Something interesting I saw on the internet to do with policing in the U.S. Is the policemen are actually made to join, the citizens in places like stadiums, basketball courts, where they actually go and play, with the citizens. So basically, by the end of the game, they've talked about so many things that, that they actually become friends. They don't see like this is a policeman. They see the policeman as a fellow human being. They discuss their problems, they discuss their families. And so, you get that relationship between the police and the citizens. There's another one where, as you say, when you see a cop car or you see police, you run in the opposite direction. But there's one white cop in the U.S. that goes to black neighborhoods, talks to, small black kids, talks to them about school and, about life generally. So you find that whenever this cop turns up, instead of the kids running away and they're black and he's white, they actually run towards the car because they have such a positive experience with him that they're no longer scared of it. They actually take him as a mentor, as a counselor. When they have problems at home, they'll talk to him and tell him all their problems. So, that's something I found quite a good practice. Yeah. So
Thank you very much, Mongi. It's a good practice.
Cheers.
Yeah.
It's good practice. It's something but it just stands out among individual police officers. It doesn't seem to be a system issue that solves an issue, and we need it to be a system. But even when you talk about police in America, it's the same. The Black Lives Matter movement and the protests were because people are rising up against the police. They're feeling that this police is not responsive to us as a people in our own contexts. It's a conversation that needs to happen, but something must change.
Something has to change for sure.
It must change. We cannot have come to a level where we have institutionalized police reforms, but we still don't see it happen. We see a national executive that is, instead of looking at how to then improve on what has been done, we see a national government that is seeking to regress and take us back to where we were before, what people are trying to push away from. Nah, it's wrong. Today's proverb: having a good conversation is like having riches. It's an African proverb. Having a good conversation is like having riches. Speak to Kenha and everybody else.
Well, I mean, we're saying, look, we're talking about this because, and I think we're at the point whereby we're saying, we then have the wealth in our hands because we're talking about it. It would be nice for the Inspector General's office. It would be nice for Kenha. It would be nice for all these others who are duty bound if we didn't talk about it, right? But we're talking about it, and we're saying we're asking you to come in and tell Kenyans how exactly you're going to deal with these issues. Because when people start to act instead of talking, it'll be more serious.
Thank you for joining us today. Join us again tomorrow morning. Have a lovely day. It's now 10 a.m.
up your life.